Like we always do at this time, I go for mine, I get to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky. I go for mine, I get to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky.
And hello everybody, welcome to another episode of This Week in Startups. This is episode number, Tyler?
4.
No, wrong, 5. This is episode number 5. Tyler, it's great to know that you're on top of it. That's why we have Alex here replacing you, Tyler. You're losing it in your old age. So welcome again. This is This Week in Startups, a show about startups, entrepreneurship. Wow, we've had a great response to the show. Everybody twittering it. Over 10,000 people watching every episode already. Gosh, it's going really well. And you guys are sending great suggestions all the time, great suggestions for guests. And as you guys know, the hashtag on Twitter, Twitter, as they say in the business, is #TWiST, This Week in Startups, with a T at the end. So everybody should go right onto their Twitter and say, I am watching Jason Calacanis and David Sachs on This Week in Startups. Put the URL, put a #TWiST at the end. And I'm just going right in here right now. You can pull up my screen, and we'll see who's watching the show. This is always a great way to get people interacting. I see Union Studios says he's watching it. We have Twit on the Hill watching it. We have Colin Tuloch watching it. Zach Siegel, Liano Software, Alexandra. We should be putting up my screen just so we can see all the different people watching. Liquid is watching. Cold Trickle. Catherine Stone is watching. Oh, did we lose our connection? Is that? Oh, sorry about that, guys. All right. Little technical difficulties, but you guys should be able to see it in a second. So all these incredible people watching the show, good-looking people, I might add. The Hunter Owens is watching, Carlos Guerra. And whoa, look, already, as I say it, 8 more people have tweeted that they're watching it. And let's start out the show by thanking the amazing sponsors we have. Ustream. Ustream does a great job of providing us with this really, it's not high def, but it's like standard def, Tyler, that they're at right now. They're going to have high def soon, I bet. But incredible streaming technology. Everybody has a Ustream account already. DNA Mail. Oh, look at that. There we go. This Week in Startups. 148 live viewers already. And we're just getting started. Well, that's kind of funny. When you put the Ustream up, we see my laptop in there. So that's sort of like one of those window things where it's a window and a window and a window. WebSpy. Thank you so much for sponsoring the show. David, you've probably had this crazy feeling when you're running a company that everybody is checking Facebook all the time and doing their personal email and surfing porn sites or something. What WebSpy lets you do, maybe not surfing porn sites, but anyway, it lets you see what percentage of time everybody's spending their time. And that seems like, oh my God, I'm like a crazy draconian boss. But the really clever thing about it is you can just let your employees know what they're spending their time on. So it's sort of like transparent. So they can see, gosh, I spent half an hour on Twitter and 45 minutes on Facebook today. Maybe I should actually do some real work. Or maybe that's cool. Maybe that's what they're supposed to be doing because they work in that area. But giving people feedback on actually what they're spending time on lets them do the right thing. And generally, employees at startup companies want to do the right thing. They want to spend their time on what they're supposed to spend their time on, but they don't know how much time they're spending on all their different things. So it's really a productivity tool and an introspective tool. WebSpy is super cheap. They have different levels of products, and thank you to WebSpy for sponsoring the show. You should probably put WebSpy up when I'm talking about them, Alex, so that everybody can see their beautiful logo and all these great charts and everything. And
if they use discount code TWiST, they get 10% off.
What? There's a discount code?
Yeah, if they use discount code TWiST, they get.
You didn't tell me that. Okay, so everybody, when you go to WebSpy, use the discount code of TWiST, TWiST. You get 10% off, 10% off. And finally, DNA Mail. Guys from DNA Mail will host your Microsoft Exchange. They're going to host your Google Apps. Super cheap. If you're a startup company, you don't want to be screwing around with servers, unless they're web servers. You certainly don't want to be screwing around with email servers and IT nonsense. You should just outsource that for like $3 a month to each employee. That's what we do, and that saves us. We have no IT guy here. No IT department. We just put everything in Google Apps and in the cloud and use Macintosh computers, and guess what? Then you're done. So thanks to those 3 sponsors and everybody who's a super fan of the show. This is for super fans only. Advanced Kung Fu Technique. Go onto Twitter and, of course, thank them on Twitter. So you should go to Twitter This is like really clever. This is crowdsourcing your advertising, crowdsourcing your sponsorships. Everybody should thank DNA Mail. They should thank WebSpy, and they should thank Ustream for sponsoring TWiST. The reason you guys get to watch TWiST is because these three great sponsors provide all the infrastructure for the 18 people. People don't know this. There's 18 people who work on the show. There's 3 people in makeup. There's 4 cameramen here. We've got 2 producers. We've got 3 assistant producers. We have the line producer. We got the 2 craft services people. We've got the person who drives my trailer and the guest trailer. And then Tyler gets 2 trailers as part of his contract. So it's not cheap, and you really should thank the sponsors. And it's great. It sort of blows the sponsor's mind when they get a thank you from the actual audience. So let me introduce our guest. I'm going to do something different this week. I'm going to introduce the guest now, so when we do the Ask Jason segment, the entrepreneur who's asking can then maybe get a response from both people. My guest today is a really good friend of mine. We've become good friends over the last couple of years. He's a great entrepreneur. He's done 3 pretty significant companies that I know of. PayPal, you might have heard of it, did pretty well, sold to eBay. Then he went on to Genie, which is doing fabulously, which is one of the most sort of advanced genealogy products out there on the market. I would say the most advanced in terms of a technical basis, very Web 2.0 and moving on to 3.0. And of course, he was the winner of TechCrunch 50 this past year with Yammer, which is a business productivity tool, which is just awesome that we use here at Mahalo. And welcome to the program, David Sachs.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're back.
Glad to be your 5th guest. Only
5th
four others who are more important.
Yes, we obviously do that in that we do it in order of importance.
Right.
And so Peter Thiel and Elon Musk will be the next 2 guests. Obviously, you're more important than those guys.
Right.
Not that entrepreneurs care.
Right. I do appreciate the trailer.
The trailer has been good.
Yeah, except they got the wrong type of bottle of water there.
Did they really not? They didn't get the Fiji?
Yeah, I actually requested Avion, and it was Crystal Geyser. So.
What, guys?
Yeah, just.
Guys, please, can we run a professional operation here? How hard is it to stock 15 types of water? Come on, Tyler. The program. Oh my God, 43 people have. This is getting ridiculous with the people twittering. I just want to show this for a second because this is probably one of the more brilliant things I've come up with. This is probably the most brilliant part of the show, is the fact that we've convinced the audience to retweet who the sponsors are. So the sponsors now get more value probably from the audience retweeting than they do from the advertisement in the show. I would venture to guess that. And people say Twitter has no business model, but apparently when everybody starts thanking DNA Mail, WebSpy, and Ustream over and over and over again, and they just, every time I go to the tab, it keeps refreshing. It's kind of funny in a way. Anyway, you are a colossal entrepreneur. You're also a great poker player, and you've done some movie producing. You've got a range of experiences we're going to talk about today. But everybody knows the first segment on the show is one in which we help entrepreneurs called Ask Jason, and in this case, it's going to be Ask Jason and David. So let's put on the speakerphone here. You're willing to talk to another entrepreneur, right? Who needs help?
Sure.
wait, play that again. That's hysterical. Play the Ask Jason again. Oh my God. That is funny. You got to make it a little bit longer though. So speakerphone is this button. I haven't used this crazy device called a phone in a long time. Hello, this is Jason.
Hey Jason, how you doing?
I'm good. You're live on This Week in Startups with David Sachs, a much more experienced and colossal CEO than myself. So you've got 2 CEOs here with a little bit of experience. Tell me, who are you, where are you from, and what is your question?
Well, hi, my name's Don Charlton. I'm founder and CEO of TheResumator.com. We're located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Startup company launched January of this year, and I have 2 questions.
Okay. TheResumator.com. Okay, we got it coming up on the screen here.
It's TheResumator.com, and basically what we do is we take the pain and paper out of hiring. We make it collaborative. We make it less expensive. But the question I have is, it's not a sexy industry. Our product is insanely useful. People love it whenever they use it. There's a lot of high value, and we're growing. But what we're trying to do though is we're trying to figure out, how do you get buzz for a product that's in a market that isn't necessarily, social networking or something that's sexy?
Right. So I guess your question is, how do I get buzz around my product? If my product is, in fact, not that buzzworthy, if it's a boring product, right, or mundane, or practical? How do you get marketing for that? This is a great question. So let's take a look first at your product, the Resume. We'll pull it up on the screen here. I like the design of the site. Just coming to it immediately, it's very good. The one thing I will tell you as a design sort of guy, red and blue vibrate a lot, so the red sign up button is a little bit aggressive, but that's okay. And it says, save time and money on hiring. The Resumator is the easy, efficient way to promote jobs and review resumes. That's a great website. You go to it, it tells you what it does. Add your career portal to your website. So I guess I can add this and have like a job board on my website?
Yeah, exactly.
Then I can post jobs to my job board, like blog software, collect resumes and sort them, and then rank them and collaborate on the applications. This seems like something I would like to use at Mahalo. Tyler, you do a lot of hiring for the team here. Everybody who works at Mahalo has to go through Tyler. He checks them for their ability to fit in with the insanity at this company. This is a great idea. So it's sort of like if I was going to do a blog, I wouldn't make my own blog software. I would just sort of put that there. You know, I use WordPress or something. Here I can have my resume workflow done with this. How much does it cost?
There's 3 price plans. It's free for 1 job. It's $49 for up to 10 jobs, and it's free for unlimited. And the idea behind it is it makes the entire process paperless. Instead of an inbox full of emails you have to print out or resumes you have to print out from PDFs, it converts them all into a format where you can just browse online and collaborate online to view all your applicants. Okay,
so you want to know how to market this. I'm going to give you 4 tips. The first one is a basic one. Do you have a corporate blog? Do you have a corporate Twitter account? And do you talk about the overall industry of employment on it on a regular basis, yes or no?
Yes, we do have a blog. We do have a Twitter account. I think we did a pound twist for you.
Good.
And we just did. And also, we're trying to become more involved in sort of being a voice in the industry. So, right. Yes.
So this is a key thing to do. And the way you want to do it is, I'm pulling up your blog right now, is you want to be very magnanimous and not talk about yourself. You want to talk about everybody else in the resume space, everybody else in the hiring space, people looking for jobs, stories in the New York Times. You want to credibly insert yourself as an authentic voice in the career space. So don't write about, this is what we're doing. If there's a story about people being, unemployed people and it's raising to a certain rate in some city and what they're doing to transfer their jobs, talk about that. If there's another company doing interesting things, talk about that. Talk about Craigslist, be bigger than yourself. So I think that's a place where you could probably evolve. Because I'm reading your blog post, your blog right now, and it's like, hey, here's new features about us. Here's us in the news, and here's some, more features about us. Me, 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 me. And what it's really got to be about is us, 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 you, you, you. You understand that difference? On a conceptual basis?
I'm red in the face now. That is now that I look at it, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, that's just a very simple thing that you can do. Credibly insert yourself. Another thing you could do, right? So there's conversations occurring about resumes and hiring. The blog and the Twitter account are ways for you to credibly insert yourself into that conversation stream. Where also those conversations occur is they occur at events. So maybe what you should do is host an event about employment. Host an event about employment services. This is sort of like an advanced kung fu method, but there's a discussion going on about your space. And it's best that you host the discussion, and then you get looked at as sort of like the magnanimous person. It's one of the reasons I do TechCrunch 50, which David won last year, is so that I am sort of supporting all the industry. It's part of the reason I do TWiST. It's not about, you don't hear me talk about Mahalo on TWiST, do you?
No.
Right. What do I talk about on TWiST?
You talk about startup companies.
Exactly.
And it's a way of becoming the expert.
Exactly. And so now we're here helping you. You feel good about TWiST. Maybe you check out Mahalo. Think that same way. How you can talk about the industry and then help it. A couple of other things for you, very quick. One, number 2, stats and surveys give journalists a jumping off point. It's very difficult to create a survey and a stat, right? This seems like it's colossal. It's so difficult. It's not. It's really easy. Do a survey of 100 hiring managers, 50 hiring managers, and ask them to answer 20 questions related to the economy, whatever. Put it in a press release. Do great charts. You could hire somebody for probably $2 or $3 grand to do this for a month, release the study in a PDF format to the press, and have some questions in there that you know are going to appeal to a TechCrunch, you know that are going to appeal to the New York Times or somebody. Journalists are looking for data points to jump off of. You have probably some data locked up in your collection there of sites, and with those people who are your hiring managers, you could release that information and get a lot of buzz about it. The last one I'm going to give you, number 3, is the sort of purple cow. Have you read Seth Godin's Purple Cow?
Yes.
Okay, so it's something unique. What is unique and interesting about you, right? I have the Bulldog, I've got the Tesla, people can key off of that, I play poker, I'm a degenerate gambler. You know, there's something that people can say, oh, Calacanis has these things about him. What do we know about Don Charlton? Business is personal. We should get to know you as the CEO. We should get to know what you're about. David did the film Thank You for Smoking. He was the founder of PayPal. He placed in the World Series of Poker. What do we know about Don? I don't know if you're a boring guy or not, but it would be cool to know something about you if you have a little personality as a CEO and there's some purple cow about the company, right? I mean, IZEA and PaperPost, it's a dorky company. I don't agree with everything they do, but you got to give the guy Ted Murphy who runs that company a lot of credit because he's everywhere. And that was my 4th point, be everywhere. So be unique, be everywhere. So we got 4 points for you. 1, host the conversation, make the conversation more about the industry and everybody else. Number 2, do some kind of a stats and a study, something like that you can give out. Purple cow it, make yourself unique, make your company unique, something about it, something you do, you have lunch, you have free massages, those things have already been done, something else like that. Google gets more press about free lunch and 20% time than anything. You come up with something like that. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, and also be everywhere. I haven't seen you at any events. Did you come to TechCrunch 50? Were you at the D conference last week? Were you there wearing your logo, with your hat, giving out chocolate-covered grasshoppers like that grasshopper.com company did? You need to be unique and out there so people can pick up on you.
Okay, that's fine. I'm trying to get into the demo pit, too, this year, actually.
All right, well, we'll try and make that happen. David Sachs is here. David, you've done a great job marketing. I mean, you make beautiful products. You won TechCrunch 50. What are some things that you can help Don and the Resumator to sort of break out and sort of be more buzzworthy?
Right. Well, I was going to ask, are the resumes public that people create? I mean, can you index them in Google so you get SEO traffic?
Well, no. The idea is in the industry is typically you want to maintain the privacy of each applicant. So the only person that can see the resume is the business that fielded the resume.
Okay.
But you do have the jobs can be SEO'd.
Yes, yeah, we're all over that.
Okay.
Basically, that's the idea is, SEO, the actual job. Yeah, exactly.
So do the users create their resumes on your site, or is it just about companies posting these job listings?
Companies post jobs. We syndicate them across the web for them. Applicants come to their job boards, and then the applicants post their PDF or their Word document or text file resume, and we just basically prevent you from having to print all those out. We make them visible in the browser, and then there's a whole bunch of collaborative tools around each resume. Mm-hmm. So, huge time saving.
Okay. I mean, I usually approach it from a product point of view.
Right.
I'm not as good at self-promotion as
other
people. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, the two sort of traditional ways to make your product kind of self-distributing are you either can create content that can be indexed in search engine and people can find it that way, or you make it viral somehow that the users invite other users as part of the product flow.
Which was PayPal.
PayPal did that.
If you don't have a PayPal account, it would just email you. By the way, Jason at Calacanis, you have $100. It's
right.
Like, what do I do now? Of course I'm coming.
Right. You could send money to an email address. The person doesn't even have to be a user. So
that's interesting.
So, yeah.
So maybe you have like an email this job to somebody or know somebody who's qualified, email it to them and maybe get a commission or something like that. That would be an interesting thing, is to create a financial incentive maybe in the product. So if I had the Mahalo job board, I could say I'm willing to pay a $50 bounty or a $500 bounty if somebody refers somebody, and then have that automated into the sort of intranet software that you provide. Do you have that feature?
We don't have the monetization part of it, but you can forward jobs. Definitely, we definitely have that.
Well, just speaking out loud here, you heard about PayPal and the money in the email thing was sort of magical. I know if I got an email from somebody that said, hey, David thinks or Tyler thinks you might know somebody for this, VP of social media position. It pays $1,000 bounty. I might actually do it. And if
Right,
he
so you're
got
sort of talking about like an affiliate marketing type of
a little bit like
offer.
an affiliate marketing type thing, it might be something you want to consider. Some way of, and basically you're empowering your customers to do that so they can just check off that box or not. They don't have to use it. But I think you got to be everywhere. Where are you based again?
Pittsburgh.
Okay, well, that's the first mistake. You got to get out of Pittsburgh and move to a major city. No offense to Pittsburgh.
My father-in-law's from Pittsburgh.
Sorry, Pittsburgh. I know you got the Steelers, but there's not much else going on there. No offense to Pittsburgh, but to be honest, people in terms of scaling up the business, you could have the home office in Pittsburgh, but you got to get yourself into the flow if your goal is to build a big startup, and really blow it out. New York City, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, maybe Austin, but you got to upgrade the city and have your management team there, and really, if you want to kill it. I know that's hard to say to the second-tier cities of the United States and the world. I'm sorry, but unless you're like some colossal entrepreneur like a Mark Cuban or a Jeff Bezos or something like that, or a Mark Andreessen, where you can pick what city you're in and everybody comes to you, I really highly recommend being in a city where there's a lot going on, because you would get caught up in that buzz. If you guys were in, say, the Valley, you would be getting caught up in the buzz of the 5 events going on every night and your 10 employees going to them and handing out cards and wearing hats and giving out stuff. You're not in the flow. I mean, what the hell's going on in Pittsburgh? No offense, right?
Trust me, I thought about moving out of here a few times.
All right, so now you have 5, 6 pieces of advice. Hopefully you take 2 or 3 of them, and hopefully maybe in 10 shows, Alex, can we maybe call back the people on Ask Jason, maybe, and we should just have a wrap-up show. Maybe episode 20 should be all the Ask Jasons put into one, and we talk to them and see if any of these people took any of the advice and if any of it worked.
Yeah, we can do that.
This is free advice, so you know it's worth as much as you paid for it. Don, thank you so much for calling in and being honest about your business. It's really a cool business. I would actually like this product on Mahalo. Wouldn't this be cool, Tyler?
I need to dive on it.
All right, well, can you email Tyler at Mahalo and just tell him a little bit about it and give him a free account? This is the other reason we do the show, so we can get a free version of this stuff. Get him a free account, and he's going to try it for Mahalo. And that's another thing to do, is you should try to get high-profile clients who are very social media active. I mean, if you get, Mike Arrington at TechCrunch, or me, or, I don't know, Scoble, Rackspace, if you can get some of those high-profile people stumping for your product, that's better than you stumping for your product. I mean, David has me on the homepage of Yammer talking about how great Yammer is. It's better to have somebody else doing it. It feels better. Anyway.
Wait, Jason, can I have you on the homepage of the Resumator?
Absolutely, you can have me on the homepage of the Resumator if we use it. This is actually really interesting. As a side note, we tried their product. The product was good, but we didn't really need it.
I know what you're talking about.
Right, Tyler knows what we're talking about. Is Tyler mic'd?
No.
Tyler's got to be mic'd, and we need to have a camera on Tyler in the future. Tyler cam, please. And we used the product, and we said, hey, if we like the product and it's good, we will do a press release for you.
Right.
And then they were like, we're not going to really use the product. We have our own solution for it, but thank you very much. It's a very graceful, good product. And the person was like, well, can we still do a press release with you? Mm-hmm. And I said, well, the press release is going to say, it's a nice product, but we have a better solution. So I don't think you want that quote on your press release. And they're like, well, it's kind of really important for us to have a quote from you. And I was just like, it was a little bit surreal to have somebody ask for a bad quote as opposed to no quote. And I had to really explain to them, a bad quote is not as good as no quote in the order of things. Anyway, Don, thank you so much, and good luck with everything, and keep fighting the good fight. I know it must be tough to be in the employment space during the worst economic time of our lifetimes. But if you build now, you will have great market share when the market comes back in 2017. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Cheers. Bye. All right. What did you think of that, Dave?
It's interesting. One question I would have about the business is how they differentiate from LinkedIn.
Right.
So we didn't get a chance to cover that, but
yeah. Well, this isn't about him totally. This was it's supposed to be really one question, and we'll end up going for a while.
Yeah.
It seems to me theirs is like an intranet that you plug in onto your site. So as opposed to sending people to LinkedIn to the open sort of thing, this is like sort of like Ning versus Facebook, I guess.
Right.
Put it on your site.
Right.
So thanks for coming on the program. We've met, I don't know, 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
Sounds about right.
A couple of years ago. We have a ton in common at this point.
That's true, yeah.
We both own a Tesla.
Right.
We both are degenerate poker players.
Right.
We're both on, I think, our third or fourth startup. What startup are you on? 3, 4?
I guess if you count the movie, I guess it'd be 4. Yeah.
And if you count TechCrunch 50, I'm on my 4th.
Right. Okay.
You're 47 like me, right? No. How old are you?
37.
I'm 38.
Okay. There you go.
And we both had companies in Web 1.0 and Web 2.0.
Right.
So a lot of common. We both live in Los Angeles. Lots of common DNA.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about entrepreneurship in general. How did you get into entrepreneurship? How did you become an entrepreneur? Was it something that you stumbled into? What was your first entrepreneurial venture?
Well, I guess the first entrepreneurial thing I did was PayPal. And the way that happened is, I had about a 6-month conversation with Peter Thiel, who was the CEO, founder of the company. It was called Confinity back then. And the product was this palm beaming thing where you'd beam money from one Palm Pilot to another.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was voted the worst VC-backed idea of 1999. And
wow, you'll always have that.
Yeah, exactly. And the conversation I had with Peter was basically, well, I kind of agree. That's kind of it's interesting technology, but kind of a dumb business or idea. And but over the course of this conversation, we raised the question: what if you could email money? That sounds like a killer app.
Right.
And so Peter agreed, and I said, well, I'll quit my job tomorrow, and if that's what the company's going to be about. So
what was the job you were in?
I was working at McKinsey as a management consultant. I had been doing that for about 10 months. Before that, I'd been in law school and decided I wanted to do something in business, not law. So
right, law was too boring.
Yeah, yes. Basically, I was more interested in business.
Did you never practiced law? You just got
never practiced. I just I worked for a summer at a law firm and kind of.
Why didn't you go into law?
Well, I summered at a law firm, and the law is intellectually interesting, but practicing the law, just wasn't really for me.
Really boring, or what?
Well, I just wanted to do something more sort of business oriented, I guess.
Right, more dynamic, perhaps.
Yeah, it's
less on the sidelines, less a supporting role, more a primary.
Yeah,
role.
I mean the billable hours thing is a really bad starting point.
Yeah, I always found that bizarre. It's like your whole career is around how many hours you can bill per year.
Right. So you're absolutely capped out in terms of
compensation.
Yeah, exactly, and really, what you can kind of accomplish in a way.
I never understood why law firms are why the whole law firm structure is the way it is. I mean, it's just to maximize profits, hourly. I think law firms should take some equity position in the clients they.
Some do.
Some do, but
and those are probably the more exciting ones to work for because the lawyers kind of get to be entrepreneurs. Right. Unfortunately, a lot of that stuff is kind of the dark side of entrepreneurialism, where these like the class action lawyers. I mean, they're the ones who are, perpetrating these strike suits on businesses, making our lives harder.
Yeah.
So it's sort of the.
Wouldn't it be groovy though if there was a structure where a great lawyer could become the general counsel of 5 companies, or 10 even, because we don't need a lawyer here but once a month, twice a month or whatever. And they just rotate, come one day to each office.
Well, that's kind of what a law firm is, right? I mean, you outsource your legal needs to a firm because it doesn't make sense to have a bunch of lawyers working internally.
Right,
so.
but then instead of compensating them, think about a young attorney coming out and they go make $125 or $100 or $150,000 a year. What's the lawyer make after 5 years? $200,000, $300,000?
I don't know. I guess something a few $100,000. Yeah.
If they worked at 5 startups and then had equity in each of them, they could accept $150,000 a year and make $30,000 from each. It'd be much less for the startup, and they'd have equity. They'd be more in line with the interests of the business.
Right. Well, a number of the Silicon Valley firms, especially during the boom times, did have these compensation arrangements where they would take an equity stake in the company.
Roback.
Yeah, and Wilson Sonsini, people like that. And they actually, I think, ended up making, at least during the good times, more from their equity piece than from the hours. And in exchange, they'd be willing to kind of cut their rates. And I think that worked well, during good times. And I think it's hard to make work during the bad times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you leave McKinsey, you go to PayPal.
Right.
They hire you as CEO?
No, I was hired originally as the VP of strategy, which was like an excuse to meddle in any part of the business that I wanted to.
That's that's VP of strategy. No offense, Tyler, is a really nebulous title. It's sort of we don't know where to put this person.
Yeah, it's sort of the role that the founder, who's kind of outlived his usefulness, kind of graduates into. Yeah, exactly. So I wasn't the VP of strategy for very long. I mean, I kind of figured out, within the first month that the product was absolutely central and that we had to get the product right. And the product like I was saying initially at PayPal, was this palm beaming thing. To sign up for PayPal, you had to actually go through a 7-page sign-up flow.
That's it? Just 7?
Just 7, and you had to sync your Palm Pilot twice during the flow.
Right.
So, so I kind of focused.
Sorry, I just kind of laughed at that. So what you're saying is Peter Thiel, not the best guy to design a web application.
Well, Peter isn't really a product guy.
Right, not a product guy.
He's a brilliant finance guy and strategist.
Absolutely. So he had the right idea. He raised capital.
Yeah, exactly. He's a great big picture guy, and
Right.
And I think he agreed that we had to streamline the product, make it web based.
Less than 12 steps.
Right, exactly.
Cut
so
it down to 7 or 6,
unfortunately, he
5.
didn't tell anybody else in the company that we were going to abandon the work that had been done, for the last 10 months. So the task fell to me of breaking it to the engineers.
Everybody I've met
Right.
claims that they were the founder of PayPal
Right.
or the CEO.
Right.
Who actually had the idea to move it to email?
Well, it's a tough question because I think a lot of people kind of intuited that was the right direction.
Huh.
So
it was a conversation that was going on for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had that conversation with Peter, for many months before I
Right.
took the plunge. But I think other people were probably talking about it as well.
It's so interesting, that moment in time when the Palm Pilot, I'm sure there's a lot of entrepreneurs watching who are Web 2.0 kids. They don't remember the Palm Pilot. The Palm Pilot hysteria was equal to the iPhone hysteria, perhaps more. Like, people were at cocktail parties taking out their Palm Pilots, flipping them open.
Right,
and these things were
business cards.
big. I mean, they looked like a
Right.
tricorder.
Right.
It was like Star Trek, and you flipped it open. There was a plastic cover on it that
Right.
served no purpose, that would break off. And you'd
Right.
walk up to people and you'd go, business card? Beep! And you beam your business cards to
Right.
each other. That was the sole purpose of having this device.
Right.
It had a green screen that looked like it was like issued to soldiers in Desert Storm. I mean, it was the monochrome green. It was the most disgusting LCD,
Right. You actually had-
disgusting
Right.
display ever.
Right, and you actually had to learn like a new
Palm script.
Yeah, you had to graffiti.
Graffiti.
You had to learn how to
Yes.
use this.
J.
It's like a new
A.
language, really.
Yeah, you had to. Basically, what you do is you swiped on your pen on the pad, and you wrote stuff.
Right.
It was terrible.
Are we like really dating ourselves now? Because I
No,
guess
it's just. I mean, this is
a
the
lot of people probably don't remember
in the
this,
history
but
of products.
yeah.
Palm was so fascinating, yet
Right.
so many mistakes, yet so much promise. It's a really.
Right.
We could do a whole show just on the Palm and having the different versions of it out here, but.
Right.
My point was the whole world. It's interesting how technology works. Everybody looked at every problem through the Palm Pilot for a year.
Right.
It was like 1 year was wasted, just like everything was the Palm.
Right.
So getting money from one Palm to the other.
Well, this was like the first phase of mobile excitement, right?
Right.
And in fact, the early backer of PayPal was Nokia Ventures, right? Because they ultimately saw it as like this mobile play.
Right.
And so you're right. We kind of got funded as a result of that first wave of mobile hype.
Right. And boy, did that first wave of mobile hype go nowhere. I mean,
Right.
there was no infrastructure.
Right.
The phones were too expensive.
Right.
The phones crashed. I mean,
Right.
it's nothing like today where actually the mobile web is quite usable today.
Right. Exactly.
So, what was Peter Thiel to work like back then? I mean, he's very famous now. He's got this
Right.
sort of elusive, almost like somewhere between Lex Luthor and Bruce Wayne kind of. Like, he's either Dr. Evil or he's a superhero at night. Like, he's very mysterious.
Right.
He's multi-billion-dollar fund that tripled in value. Are you
Right.
in Clarium? Do you have money in
Yeah,
that
I'm
fund?
in Clarion, yeah.
So that alone's got to be fascinating. And then
Right.
he's investing in Facebook and Founders Fund. I mean, the guy's got his hands in everything.
Right.
He's in some big glass building in the what's that area? Not the Presidio. It's the Presidio. He's in the Presidio, like they have the big
Right.
office. What was he like to work with 10 years ago?
Right. Well,
What kind of
I
guy was
really liked working with him. When he hired me, basically, what he told me was, I need people here who I can scream at. And I think what he meant by that is I need people who can scream at me too, and
Right.
And
People who will mix it up.
yeah, exactly.
People who care.
Exactly. People will be honest, and you don't have to worry about hurting people's feelings. It's just like we want to figure out what the right thing to do is.
Right. And sometimes that
And-
takes some tension.
Yeah, exactly. But but I don't want to overstate that.
Right.
Actually, we had like a really, I think, it was a very good working relationship. Really enjoyed working with him, and he's a great sort of contrarian thinker. I think that was sort of the unique thing that he brought is that he'd always come with these strategic insights that everybody else had just kind of missed.
Yeah.
And really helpful. I mean, like one example was right before the dot-com crash in the early 2000s. Was it like February, March?
I think it was March, April was when the 2000 when
right.
the market went from 5,000 Nasdaq to
Right.
3,500, 3,000, and
Right.
everybody's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it crashed this." Then it went down to 1,100. I
Right.
think.
So Peter was raising a financing round for us then, and we got something like 200 million in commitments to invest at a 500 million pre-money valuation.
Hello.
Yeah, but this is when PayPal had no revenue, no profits, and not even really a business model.
Yeah.
But everyone in the company, this is like the sort of the peak of the dot-com euphoria. Everyone in
Right.
the company was saying that's too cheap. This is a bad deal. We can't do this.
And he's like, "Bank it."
Yeah, but he literally kicked everyone's butts to get that deal done, and
Right.
literally we got the deal done. I think the Friday before Black Monday. I think if we had waited just
no
one
PayPal.
more day,
Game over.
Literally game over. There would not have been a PayPal. He was the only one who really saw the bubble for what it was.
A bubble.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we ended up compromising and only taking 100 million of the 200 million or something
And
like
you guys
that.
felt really stupid about that.
Yeah,
afterwards.
exactly. But we ended up actually raising more money after the crash. But that was like one example of where if he just, if it wasn't for his contrarian thinking, like we would have been swept away with the rest of the bubble companies. Yeah.
And so you ran it for a while, and I think the darkest moment in the history of PayPal was probably or from what I understand, I'm an outsider obviously, but I keep hearing stories about the fraud period when it just got out of control.
Right.
What happened during that period, and how out of control was it? I mean, we hear these stories that Russians were, mafia, this and that.
Right.
And there's a call center somewhere in the middle of America and they're
Right.
trying to do fraud prevention. And
Right.
like, what was going on at that period?
Right. Well, there was sort of a unique problem with processing credit cards on the internet, which is, there are CDs of stolen credit card numbers, which you could acquire on the internet. All these Russian hackers had them. And these guys could just literally run credit cards through our system and use PayPal as a way to monetize stolen credit cards. And, this could happen to any site, but since we provided a way to get cash out, it was really intense. And so we had this kind of sort of arms race with kind of, all these different criminals across the world.
Right.
And it wasn't just, criminals in the U.S. It was, we had the Russian mafia was doing it, the Nigerian mafia. I mean, it's just sort of.
And who was responsible then? Like, so I steal a bunch of credit cards. I'm the
Right.
Russian, Nigerian mafia, whatever
Right.
mafia.
Right.
Some kid who finds a credit card receipt.
Right.
I create one account. I send a bunch of money to myself. Was the credit card company responsible? Was
Well,
PayPal?
we were on the hook for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so the credit card companies would then say to you, somebody just sent $500.
Right. We were basically the merchant from the credit card company's point of view, and in the credit card world, the merchant is always on the hook for the fraud.
Wow. And
So what most credit card master merchants do, who essentially provide credit card services to small companies, is they figure out a way to pass on that risk to the small business, the small merchant.
Got it.
But in exchange,
through fees.
well, not just through fees. They'll do things like escrow. They'll do things like have a lot of hoops to go through to even get a
Merchant
account. I mean,
Right.
you have to tell them, everything
Right.
about who you are, your
20
business.
page
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. It's a complicated process. And we wanted to automate that, right? We wanted to allow
Yeah.
you to go on PayPal and send money that day and receive money that day with as little friction as possible.
So
So
how
we had
did-
to essentially reinvent the model. And the way we did that is Max built these
Max
proprietary...
Levchin, who's doing Slide.
As a CTO, right, he's now doing Slide. Essentially built these models that could much more accurately predict a fraudulent transaction in our system. And essentially we actually named the system after the Russian hacker, Igor. And then we eventually invented a new system called Ilya, who was another Russian hacker. So we eventually basically invented our own systems that kind of live behind.
What were the
service.
characteristics of a transaction that would be fraudulent? Was it
Right.
IP address outside the United States, or no IP
Right.
address, or non-AOL IP address? How did you?
Yeah, I mean, well, what we would see is a pattern where there'd be a whole bunch of accounts created, and then they would send basically the max credit card amount that we allowed, and then they would basically go into a series of feeder accounts, and they would all essentially trickle down into one master account, who would then try and take out the money.
Right.
And so essentially what Max did is create some visual
Representation.
visual representations of how this went. And a human looking at the visual representations could spot right away a fraudulent pattern.
Right.
It'd be very hard for a computer to actually do this. It was sort of like the right blend of computer human intelligence.
Sure, augmented human intelligence.
Right, exactly. And so sort of the algorithm did the work of putting this on the screen, and then a human could look at it and immediately detect that this was fraudulent.
Like where'd the money go to go to go to go.
Right,
And
exactly.
you had this great thing because they had to take the money out at some point.
Right, exactly.
And so a human could just look when the money's coming out, or
Right.
any money above this amount, or
Right.
any money from this IP address or this country.
Right,
et cetera.
exactly.
How much money do you think was fraudulently transacted through PayPal? Like, how much money did you guys lose through those kind of transactions? Was it tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands?
No, it was in the
millions?
millions.
Millions of dollars
Yeah.
in fraudulent transactions
Yeah.
that PayPal had to pick up the cost of.
Yeah.
So, but hundreds of millions of dollars, the company's making hundreds of millions, so it's a percentage point of that?
Yeah, I mean,
that how
I think, well, I think, yeah, the way we looked at it was, what's the percent of our transaction volume that's fraudulent, right? So, if 0.5% were fraudulent, but your average fee was about 3%, then you'd still be netting 2.5. But the problem is, we also had to pay for all the credit card interchange fees, which are pretty expensive.
5%, 3%,
Right.
2%.
Well, it was about 2% plus some fixed payment.
Right.
PayPal charges merchants about 2.2% plus some payment. So really, the credit card payments were either a wash or actually losing money on.
Got it.
The way that PayPal made money is that about half the payments, at least when I was there, were on us transactions, where it was basically a PayPal account balance funding the transaction, or someone funding the transaction from a bank account.
Got it.
And those transactions were almost free to us.
Right, because
So-
the money's already in the account.
Right.
you
And this is what I
trans-
think the people who want to compete with PayPal don't quite understand is this huge advantage that PayPal has. It's why they're able to price the product so low, because so many of the transactions are either on us or being funded from a bank account.
Fascinating. So the company goes public.
Mm-hmm.
You guys wind up selling it to eBay. Everybody makes a lot of money, and you go on to make a movie.
Right. I just decided to do something completely different. PayPal was it was sort of like a roller coaster. I mean,
Right.
the company was mostly built after the crash. I mean, it was definitely tough.
Right.
And I think I just want to do something completely new and different.
Were you burnt out at that point from the crash and the IPO and
Well,
everything? Tired?
I wasn't burnt out on doing things. I was
Right.
just psychologically, I thought it would be better just to do something completely different than
Right.
immediately jump into another startup.
Right.
And so I decided to move to LA and start a production company. I was very interested in movies when I was in school.
Right.
I probably watched about 2,000 movies when I was in law school instead
Right.
of going to class. And
Favorite director is?
I was like,
Or genre?
Yeah, I mean, well, I kind of got into old movies and kind of westerns.
Really?
all Casablanca type movies, all those old war movies. I mean, all that type
Dirty
of stuff.
Dozen.
Yeah, all that type of stuff. So, some of the more recent movies I liked. There's a lot of great independent movies made in the 1990s, like Usual Suspects,
Yep.
or even something like Wag the Dog, more political
Right.
satire things.
Intelligent, but
I
fun to watch,
yeah,
well
exactly.
acted.
Right, exactly. Dynamic.
Great performances, yeah.
Train Spotting, movies like
Yeah.
that. Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction.
Right.
Movies like
So
that.
you're influenced by that 90s sort of
Yeah,
independent
exactly.
film boom.
Right, exactly.
And you think, I can play in this.
Well, I thought, most movies were so bad, I just felt like somebody should be able to try and make a better one. you
Right.
know. So I came down here, and that's basically what I did. I found Thank You for Smoking.
Right. Which was
And-
Jason Reitman,
Right.
whose dad is Ivan Reitman,
Right,
who's
right.
made a gazillion films.
Right,
And that was
exactly.
his first film.
Right, exactly.
And so he meets you. How do you meet him? A cocktail party or something?
No,
Or you
I
put out a shingle?
somebody gave me a script basically as a writing sample, and the script was sort of an early draft of Thing for Smoking, and I loved it. It was sort of exactly my kind of sensibility. I didn't really understand why it was a writing sample.
Right.
Why isn't this? Why don't we just make this?
Right.
We don't need you to write something else.
Right.
So I kind of looked into it, and the problem had been that the thing had been in development for 10 plus years in Hollywood, and the rights had been fragmented. Between Warner Brothers and Mel Gibson's company. And it took me about 2 years to kind of unravel this and acquire the rights to the project.
Oh, so that must have been a pain.
Yeah, I mean, it took about three and a half years to actually make Thing for Smoking, which is about the time it took to make PayPal. What I
Wow.
kind of realized was...
Slightly different return profile.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
$2 billion.
Yeah,
What did Thank You for Smoking make? $20 million?
Well, it
30
did about
million?
$25 million at the U.S. box office.
And cost $5-10 million to make? or
Yeah,
something?
something in that range. So
So it was profitable.
yeah, I mean, the question is always for whom?
For
in the
whom,
movie
right.
business, right? The studio makes a lot of money, but
Right.
the accounting shenanigans are well known.
Yeah. So did you guys make, and the people who funded it, you guys
Yeah,
make anything?
yeah,
or-
no, we did fine, but
Right.
a success in the movie business for sort of a Cruise to Entrepreneur might be $1 million success. In the internet space, it's like $1 billion success.
Right,
And
right.
but the execution risk is about the same. I mean, it's actually just as hard,
Right.
I think, to make a successful movie.
And in
as
some ways, it's got to be more frustrating because in the internet, you control your destiny.
Right.
It's like, oh, nobody you have to get permission from to put your
Right.
website up.
Exactly. I mean, and that really is the key difference. Is that in the internet space, you're building the product, right? Everyone works at the company, and you're making progress on it every day.
Yeah.
Whereas in the movie business, it's completely fragmented. Everyone who works on the movie is basically a contractor, and it just takes a long time to put these things together.
Cool. And so then you make the film, and you have a second film going on, right? There's some other film about Picasso or something?
About Salvador Dali,
Oh,
the
Dali,
painter,
right.
yeah. So, we've got some things in development.
Is that going to happen, or is it, how's it looking?
I think so, at some
Yeah.
point,
Is there a name for it? Can I look it up on IMDb yet? or no?
Dali and I.
Dali
Yeah,
and I.
yeah.
And any talent attached to it yet?
We're working on that. Well, the main talent is the writer-director is a guy named Andrew Niccol, who wrote and directed a great movie called Lord of War, and also Gattaca.
Wow, I love Gattaca.
Yeah, Gattaca was,
So underrated film.
yeah, and so ahead of its time, too.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing when did Gattaca come out? 2001,
It was like,
2?
I think it was like the mid-90s, maybe, or something like
Gattaca
that.
was
yeah.
awesome. What a
So-
great, looking film. I
Right,
gotta
right.
watch that film again.
Yeah.
I love
And
it.
anyway, he also wrote The Truman Show. The guy's a brilliant writer.
Truman Show is one of my
Yeah.
favorite shows. That's a show that's another film that's totally underrated
Right.
because it was such a pop blockbuster, but
Right.
so relevant.
Right, exactly. So, he's a brilliant guy and writer-director, and so, we're putting all the pieces together, and it just takes a long time. I think what I kind of realized with Thinking for Smoking is that, after the 3.5 years, that I probably could have created an internet company while I was waiting for
Yeah.
people to call me back, and
Exactly.
so that got me interested in doing internet stuff again.
So then you start Genie,
Mm-hmm.
which is a fabulous site, which seems to be doing pretty well. How many people are using this every month?
It's about like 3 million
Great.
users, yeah.
And can we pull Genie up on the screen here? This is your tree here.
Yeah, this is
so,
actually my family tree. You can drag it around and see what's going on.
So essentially, social network, Ancestry.com, but in a Flash interface that's pretty dynamic.
Well, I mean, what we're trying to do here is create a family tree of the entire world. So there's a wiki dimension to this. We're trying to use mass collaboration to solve the problem of genealogy. And what's different about Genie compared to sites like Ancestry, which are really individual efforts, is that everyone's working on the same tree. They all merge together.
So I'm just going way, way out on your tree
Right.
here, and it just keeps growing.
And you see those little green things on
Yeah.
nodes? I mean, those are all links to that person's tree.
So I can just drill down on this person
Yeah,
over here who's
exactly.
deceased and see their tree.
Right.
And this must be a fabulous computational issue. Sorry for the connection
Yeah, you
here
can
being
see
slow.
that one took a little bit of time to compute.
Right.
But
But I mean, if this tree goes on for the entire world, I mean, when do you hit the sort of, I guess, singularity of having the entire network?
well, we still got a
Yeah.
long way to go. So I'm linked into about 15 million profiles now through
Wow.
Genie. I'm in the big tree. We call it the Borg tree because it's slowly assimilating all the other trees. But we think this process is going to accelerate quite a bit as a result of some features we're rolling out soon. We just rolled out a feature called Hot Matches where Genie will actually identify when there's someone in your tree who's in another tree. And now we're rolling out some new sort of merging tools that make it a little bit easier when you find a hot match to merge with that tree. So we think we'll get to a tipping point pretty soon where it gets to be, there's so much interesting content, it keeps attracting more and more people. That makes the content more interesting and it feeds on itself.
So what is building the tree is fun. Like there's some
Right.
people who are into that, but what have you found is like the sort of next thing that people use it for? Like I'm a member.
Right.
I notice people put pictures in.
Right.
So the first behavior is I had a ton of family go in and fill out the tree.
Right.
Which is very cool for me because I didn't know great grandparents' names even.
Right, exactly.
I don't know my great grandparents' names, and now I do through Genie specifically. And and then I started seeing some pictures, and then of course like the birthday anniversary thing is obviously uber helpful. So
Right.
my relationship with Genie is mostly email.
Right.
I count on it to tell me when people have their anniversaries or birthdays.
Right, right. So we do a little bit of sort of family social networking stuff like birthday reminders, anniversary reminders. But I think it's supposed to be your personal family treasure chest, media archive. Contains your entire family history.
Right.
And like you said, the real benefit to the average user is that all this good stuff can happen without them doing anything. So
Right.
as a result of what other people are doing in the tree, you can learn about new ancestors that you had. Which is quite different than all these other sites where you really have to be doing all the work yourself.
The thing, I always wanted to have in this was the sort of history of people and the ability to document your family. Is there any feature like that or any request for a feature like that where you can say sort of, I would love to hear an interview or oral history from, my grandfather or my grandmother about her parents and their parents and sort of somehow get that in there?
Yeah, I mean, over time we're going to add more stuff that you can put in there to make it more complete. I mean, you can already add photos and videos. We want to add documents.
Like birth certificates.
Yeah,
or
all that kind of
photos,
stuff, exactly.
It'd be great if they could, if there was like a prompt, almost like, here is what everybody should know about their grandparents. Like, where were you born? What was your first job? What did your parents do? What's your earliest memory? Like, some prompting.
Right.
Because the thing I always loved about the product was when you first start filling out your profile, you score points as you fill it out. It just felt like that process sort of ended at a certain, maybe a little too early. Like maybe there's another layer of things to ask. Like, where were you born? Who's your godparent? It's just a little more. And out of that product, Genie, your company created Yammer. And Yammer, of course, won the TechCrunch 50 event. Tell me a little bit about Yammer. I mean, I know all about it, but tell the audience a little bit about it and why you built it.
Yeah, well, at every company I've ever worked at, you always have these communication issues. No one knows who anybody else is, especially if it's a big company or what they're working on. At Genie, we invented essentially pretty simple communication tools, now Yammer, that's basically Twitter for the enterprise. At least that's how it started out being. And it just allows people to post quick status updates about what they're doing. People can reply to them, have conversations. Kind of shifts all those group discussions out of email to a place where it's just easier to have them, store them, archive them, and search against them. And so what it's kind of blossomed into now is kind of a full-fledged sort of social network for inside your company.
And what's the biggest company using it? We have it here on the screen here, and we're showing it. It looks like Twitter, but it's got some groups, and you obviously have an iPhone application and a BlackBerry application. It's pretty advanced product.
Right.
And what's the biggest company using it, and how many people?
Yeah, I mean.
Or just, you don't have to tell me the company, but
yeah, well, we have hundreds of thousands of users. Major, Fortune 500 companies are using it. I don't know if I'm supposed to mention their names. I guess
unless they give you permission, or it's on the site.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Is it in the press group, press section, or?
Yeah, I mean, there are. Yeah, I mean,
well, it is public, right? Because anybody can join. You can just sign your company up. It's not official, so I guess if anybody can go rogue, do it.
Right. I guess there are networks with thousands of employees using it. And
it keeps it private based on the email.
Right.
How do you handle the fact that like IBM or Microsoft might have 4 emails that all reconcile the same company?
Yeah, they can contact us and we'll put all those email domains in one network. And then of course we have sort of directory integration so that we can just integrate directly with the company's Active Directory, things like that, to manage, so sync up with the employees. They don't have to worry about manually removing people.
And the revenue model is $1 per user per month.
Or for the silver level, and then we have the
gold level.
The gold level, which is $5 per user per month. Yeah.
What's the difference between the two levels?
You just get more stuff with the gold level. And what we found is that we started negotiating with the procurement guys at some of these big enterprises, and so they saw $1 per user per month on the website, and they're like, okay, so we'll pay like 20 cents. And we're like, no, $1. Actually, that's our revenue model. That's what we need.
Right.
And they're like, no, 20 cents. So we realized that we'd have to
have a tier.
Yeah, have a tier, exactly.
Yeah. Makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So now you launched this product at TechCrunch 50, as I mentioned. Everybody knows TechCrunch 50 is taking place September 14th and 15th. I'll pull up the website. That was the second year of the event.
Right.
And you guys were one of the 1,100 companies that applied, one of the 50 who presented, and you wound up being in the sort of last 2 or 3, and then won.
Right.
So take me through a little bit of the process of why you chose to. And by the way, startups watching, June 30th is the final application date. You can go to TechCrunch 50 to sign up. We have the TechCrunch 50 website up here on my laptop. TechCrunch 50 is free. You just fill out a form. And if you get in, you get to present for 8 minutes in front of a packed house of a couple thousand people. Tell us, how you heard about TechCrunch 50.
Right.
Why you chose to try to be in that startup competition. Obviously, you're a pretty established entrepreneur. You didn't have to do it. You get up there, you did the 8-minute presentation, competitive like everybody else.
Right.
Take us through why you did it and what it was like.
Yeah, I mean, well, part of it was that the timing was pretty good. We thought the product would be ready around that time, and we thought it would be a great platform for launching it. We thought we would get more exposure and publicity launching at the conference than not.
Right.
And we thought we had a decent chance of winning. We had been using this product internally at Genie for over 6 months, so it was highly polished.
Right.
It wasn't something that we just kind of rushed out.
Right.
And so we just kind of went for it.
Yeah. And what was it like? I mean, just sort of giving people sort of behind the stage.
Right.
You had to come and actually do
Yeah.
the presentation 2 or 3 times in the rehearsals with me
Right,
or Mike.
right.
What was that process like?
Well, it wasn't difficult really.
Right.
It was just you and I met I guess
Yep.
once or twice,
Yep.
and I kind of gave you the dry run. You gave me some feedback, which was actually really helpful.
Oh, good.
I hadn't done like a ton of these things
Right.
really. I don't think I've ever pitched in quite the same format like that.
No, usually you come in and you're David Sachs, and they're a VC who knows who you are and your track record, and it's a casual conversation, a PowerPoint.
I don't know. I mean, even I guess it is probably most similar to doing a VC pitch. I mean, when I've gone in the past to pitch to VCs, it's not like, hey, invest in my startup because who I am, what I've done in the past. I mean, I give them the full kind of product rundown.
Right.
So I guess it was sort of like that, but in front of a much bigger audience.
And 8 minutes. I mean, it's
Yeah,
clock is
exactly.
ticking.
Right,
And
exactly.
A VC,
So-
they're not like, oh, your laptop has a problem.
Right.
That's your problem.
Right, right, exactly.
High pressure.
Right, exactly. So we rehearsed it a bunch of times, just kept doing it and doing it. I think that's probably the most important thing you can do is just
Yeah, rehearse.
rehearse it.
And did you actually videotape yourself and watch a video, or some people have done that?
No, we didn't videotape it, but I rehearsed it with Adam Pizzoni, who's our VP of Engineering, who was up sort of on the stage with me driving the
Yep.
computer, which is a good idea to have someone else doing the driving while you're doing the talking.
Yeah, Tyler does that for me when we go out and
Right,
pitch VCs.
right,
and,
exactly. So I think that worked quite well, and then Adam would
And why is
time
that?
me.
Why is that important? The sort of splitting it up.
It's just too hard to kind of do both things at the same time if you want the thing to flow properly.
The concentration of.
Yeah, exactly. And if you make a mistake, then it messes up your whole script. And
Right.
So the other thing we did was time it. When
Right.
we did it, we would time it and just refine it that way.
Sure, you see which segments take what amount of time.
Right, exactly.
You can refine on the fly.
Right.
And how do you deal if there's a problem? You just keep going? Do you have a system with the person who's the driver versus the talker that you say like, hey, listen, if it doesn't work, go to the next tab and just keep moving?
Yeah, I mean, I would kind of I gave him some cues while we were talking. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong in the presentation saying, can you just move ahead a page or whatever.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Just, so we did a little bit of that, but also I think. Don't stop talking just because the guy working the projector has a problem.
The panic
just keep
thing
going.
is always
Yeah.
the worst thing to do.
Yeah, and I've kind of learned, even at presentations I give now where there's like some setup period, they're still trying to get like the AV right. I'll just start, and just start talking and they're
Yeah.
getting it working. Don't make the audience wait for 5 minutes while
You've got a
you're-
little preamble.
Yeah, exactly.
This is why we created the company. This is the history
Right.
of it. This is the big problem
Right,
we're trying to
exactly.
solve. It doesn't
Right.
require the
Yeah,
actual product
exactly.
demo.
Right, exactly.
Before we get into the product demo, let me talk a little
Right.
bit about why we built this.
Right,
et cetera.
exactly.
And so then you're at the event. You guys know you did well because the audience is pretty psyched.
Right.
Getting a lot of buzz.
Right.
What was it like at the event? I mean, it's a little self-serving for me to talk about it, but I'm trying to get people inspired to.
Yeah, no, I mean,
To actually go submit their company. We have a couple hundred companies already submitted for this year.
Yeah.
And, you're gonna of course be at the event and you have to be a judge and then hand it.
Okay, cool, yeah.
You have to give advice to the person who's going to win.
Okay,
just
yeah,
like
love to.
Mint gave advice to
Yeah,
you.
love to do that. We were very excited about it. We took it seriously. We really wanted to win.
Right.
I wasn't above it all.
Right.
Just like every other entrepreneur there. I
came
really
to win.
I came to win. I really wanted to.
Yeah.
So we did our best, and it was exciting. People were excited about it.
What did you think of some of the other companies, some of the competition? What did you really think was really good or impressed you or that was fun?
I guess there are a bunch of interesting companies. It's been like almost 9 months now.
Well, Good
so it's
Guide
kinda-
was a very good one
Yeah.
that sort of came in second, runner-up.
Right.
and-
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we were kind of getting ready for our thing, so
Right, so
I
you
didn't have
didn't
a
get a
ton of
chance to
time
pay
to.
attention to
I
everything, yeah.
kind of saw them more after the event.
Yeah.
We looked at the ones that people had.
And you
talked
got
about.
what was the sort of press footprint like? Did you get a lot of press afterwards?
We
a lot of
did,
attention?
yeah, we did get a lot of press, and then when the whole Twitter mania kind of took off, then I think people got kind of even more excited about this idea of
Yeah.
using microblogging inside the enterprise, and so.
Do you have a sales force out there selling it into companies, or just sort of like?
We do have a sales force. It's very small,
Right.
But they do spend a lot of time talking to companies, getting them comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But what we do is we're not out there sort of cold calling companies. We don't do direct sales. It's all inbound, which
Right.
means the company contacts us.
It says, I want to take over my account.
Yeah, exactly.
What is this model called? Like, how do we? There's a certain, it's freemium model, free to
Right.
pay, whatever. There's this model of create a network for a company, or create a page for a company and then have
Right.
them claim it. It's like a
Right.
claiming economy or a claiming model. What would we call that? Claimium or something.
Yeah,
you know,
I don't know if
not
it's
premium, but it's like
yeah.
it's Get
where other
Satisfaction is doing it.
Yeah,
and-
I guess they're doing it. I mean, I guess a few people are starting to do it. I mean, where I kind of got the idea from was for kind of email domain-based networks was Facebook in the early days with
Sure.
college networks.
Yeah, you had to have a Harvard EDU.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I think claimium. That's a good term for it.
Claimium or something, some term for it, right, Tyler? We should use like you're claiming.
Right.
You sort of build the network, and the person
Right.
has to claim it, and there's a claimium.
Right.
It's a
Well,
claim
it works well in
revenue
our
stream.
right. It works well in our case because this way any of the employees in the company can start the network.
Right.
You don't have to like convince the overworked IT department that they need to
Right.
like invest a lot of time in this. You can actually let the employees do it.
Right.
And then if the employees actually like the product
Right.
and it takes off, then it's going to come to IT's attention, and it basically de-risks the entire value proposition to the IT department. Then they can basically
Right.
They don't have
If
to.
people are using it, they probably want
Right.
it. And then and there's also a certain like radical nature to it. Like this is going to get built with or without you, and without it's sort of like proving to companies that they don't have control over everything their employees do.
Well, they do in fact have control. I mean, in the sense that if they wanted
they
to,
claim it.
Well, if they wanted to, they could just block the Yammer, right? So we
Oh,
can't
they could block Yammer from the thing, but
Right.
they couldn't tell you have to turn off the Microsoft Yammer thing, or
Well,
you can't
I
turn
mean,
it off to get satisfaction.
yeah, but there's no
Has
point.
anybody ever done that? Said like turn it off?
There's people. Well, no. I mean, people have come to us and they've said we want to lock it down while we do a pilot or something like that,
Right.
and so we're like fine because ultimately we want these people to be customers. It doesn't.
Right,
do
you want
us
to make them
any-
comfortable.
Right. So we spend a lot of time walking through security and everything else. And I think, what companies are finding is that, they want their employees using collaboration software, right? I mean, this is making enterprises more collaborative through technologies that have already proved themselves in the consumer space is the hot thing happening in companies today,
Right.
right? Enterprise 2.0. So when it actually happens organically, they do have some concerns, but it's not something they want to stamp out. I mean, it's
Right.
something they want to build on.
Yeah, in general, they're going to be fans of it. I mean, there was a really interesting. Did you see the thing that happened with 37 Signals and Get Satisfaction?
No, but
Get Satisfaction is like, if you type in any company's name, customer support, they come up
Right.
SEO like in the top
right,
5
right, it's very good.
without permission. Like they just basically take any company and they make a site for it. And here is the story from 37 Signals. 37 Signals prides themselves on having a really great customer service sort of
Right.
network, and then of course there's Get Satisfaction for
Right.
it, and they this is the language on this was hysterical.
Right.
I got to find it here, but they basically were saying like on the 37 Signals site, there's a little box that says like company name. Here, this is crazy. 37 Signals has not yet committed to open conversations about its products and services. Encourage them to join and support the company consumer pact. And that's how Get Satisfaction sort of.
right.
And it felt heavy-handed. And 37 Signals pointed that out and called them on it. And the Get Satisfaction people, to their credit, were like, yeah, we probably shouldn't have said it that way. So it's a
Right.
little too aggressive, like
Right.
not yet committed to being
Right.
open. It's like, well, we already have our support forums, but we're not yet committed to Get
Right.
Satisfaction support forums.
Right, right. I think, with Get Satisfaction, companies already can't control all the ways that their customers are going to talk about them, right?
Sure.
I mean, a lot of customer feedback is given on Twitter now. I think
Right.
that's just going to keep growing and growing.
Sure.
In our case, we actually want the employees to put proprietary proprietary company information
Yeah.
on there. So we have, I think, a higher hurdle in terms of security and enterprise features and all the things that are necessary to make companies comfortable with that.
Let's take some questions from the Twitter audience because they
Okay.
do a good job. So if you want to submit your question to David Sachs, pound TWiST. And this is crazy. Look at this. We got 101 more tweets. Can we pull up my screen, please? Thanks. 100 more tweets while we're talking there. A big part of the ability for somebody to come along and build something better. Right, Gino, let's look at David's comments. That's somebody doing a self-promotion in there. Is Wave a threat or a real opportunity to Yammer and the like? It's so open, it could be integrated. Have you seen Google Wave? What do you think?
Well, I've seen the articles about it.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't think it's something that people can play with yet. And it sounds like the kind of product where you actually have to use it to really understand it. So it's hard for me to kind of prejudge it. It does
Right.
seem complicated to me. Is I guess my initial
Yeah,
reaction.
I saw that screenshot and I was like, okay, that's everything.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's, I tend to like simple technologies that solve big or complicated problems as opposed to
Right.
complicated technologies that solve sort
Everything?
of, or like,
Or try to.
Yeah, it's sort of.
Yeah.
So I don't know yet. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not.
It's not out yet.
Right.
Dandy Meyer says, what advice do you have for people with a good work ethic interviewing for a startup? So somebody wants to get a job at a startup, they've got a hard work ethic. Actually, I should probably click on view tweet. That would be better. And we can actually see the full tweet there. So this guy wants to know, he's got a good work ethic. How does he get his Dan DeMeyer? How does he do a good job? What do you look for in an interview?
Yeah, I guess that's an interesting one. I guess it depends on the position, you know. But you and I have had this conversation in the past about you've talked about how you want the guy to come in there and tell me this is what I'm going to do. This is, if you hire me, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in and do this, this, and this, and this,
Right.
and this, and tell you the job basically.
Right.
So that's never a bad thing actually. I think interviews tend to work better when the candidate actually kind of takes it over a little bit.
Yeah, when they drive a little bit. Hey, here's what I can do for your
Right,
company, not
right,
just
exactly.
like passive. Like
Yeah, exactly.
if they're passive in the interview, they're probably going to be passive in the job.
Right. That's a good
Is
point.
that correct?
Yeah. Well,
maybe. I don't know.
maybe, but yeah,
Maybe.
You
I would
know,
think there's probably a correlation.
Yeah, I mean,
I like when people ask questions too.
yeah,
Isn't that nice when they've researched the company? They're like, listen, I use Yammer. Here's
Yeah.
what I like about it. Why did you do this feature? Why
Right.
aren't you doing this? Like,
yeah. I mean, I'll ask people questions about I'll ask them if they're on Facebook and Twitter,
Right.
and ask them what they like about it, don't like about it, things like that. I want to get some sense that they're, immersed in.
If
They
somebody-
haven't just looked at our site, although that should certainly be a requirement that they've taken the time to
Yeah.
use our product. But they're kind of immersed in the space and are interested in the
if
stuff.
somebody comes in and they don't have a Facebook account, they don't use Twitter, and they don't use like MySpace or Gmail
Or LinkedIn or something.
like that,
Yeah,
are you
it's
just
a-
like that's it? Like
That's a pretty bad
interview
sign.
over?
It's a pretty bad sign.
It
Yeah.
pretty much means the interview's over.
Yeah.
I think. Here's Mark Landy's question.
Right.
Is a PayPal Yammer combo coming up? I don't know if I understand that exactly, but any interest in going back and revisiting the PayPal sort of success? It's very tempting for people, I guess, to
do
go
what?
back.
To
and-
do like another payments company or something?
yeah, or include payments somehow. Do you think that problem's been solved and it's basically reached?
I still think there's a lot to do there, but I wouldn't want to try and start from scratch. It's really hard to get a payments company off the ground. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really capital intensive to build
And painful.
and painful to build a new payments brand. So, I think there's a lot that PayPal could still do. In some ways, I think it's underperforming. It could be doing a lot of things it's not, but I wouldn't want to start a new payments company from scratch. There's just too many other things to do.
So here's an interesting one. This person asks, Liano Software, who's tweeting like once every 5 minutes. I love that. Super fan Liano Software, who's probably just looking to get the plug for Liano Software, and has succeeded. Leanno Software. Congratulations. Everybody will follow you. Do you recommend marketing prior to product launch and showing previews? That's an interesting question. Do you like to show things before, or would you like to have the big reveal?
I think it's kind of pointless to market your product before.
People can use it.
Yeah, it's sort of, I think you might as well wait and try and make a big splash.
Right, all at once, I think.
Yeah.
I agree with that. It's sort of like the Steve Jobs has taught us all, like,
Right.
I mean, he really does the greatest job at launching these things.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite entrepreneur right now? Who do you think is the best entrepreneur out there, pound for pound?
Wow, that's
Or
a
top
tough one.
three, whatever.
Yeah.
Think out loud. Go ahead. You have like 2 or 3 in your brain already.
That's always a tough one. I mean, like Jobs is the guy who almost everyone points to
Right, so
because
Jobs
he's such a great
obvious.
product guy.
Who comes after Jobs?
Well, I
Assume like Jobs is Jesus Christ. You've accepted him as your Lord and Savior.
right. I mean, I tend to think in terms of like exciting companies.
Right.
And
And then work back to the entrepreneur.
well, yeah. I mean, it's
So who comes to mind next?
well. I mean, Twitter is a really exciting company right now. I thought so. Like 20 months ago when we started
Sure.
working on Twitter for the enterprise.
Yeah.
Facebook's done a great job. Companies like that obviously are pretty interesting. But
So Evan Williams then.
well, it's
Hard to say.
yeah, it's always hard to know how much credit. Certainly, the entrepreneurs deserve a lot of credit, and
Right.
then does that make them a better entrepreneur than somebody else who's doing some other thing? It's I don't know.
So here is a comment more than a comment more than a question. This is from Ken Weissner. Ken Weissner, a good-looking fellow here, and he says the best feature of Yammer is the ability to pull in RSS feeds from outside and commenting on them privately within our company.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Is that a supported feature in the product? Or did he hack that? So you
no,
just say,
no, that is. So basically, you can pull in any RSS feed
and then create threads.
Yeah, exactly.
So you pull in your competitor's RSS feed of their press group, or the RSS feed of.
Well, we use it for
TechCrunch.
So first of all, everyone's already reading TechCrunch in our company, right? So we pull in the RSS feed, and now people just reply to the TechCrunch RSS item to have conversations about it. Also,
so you basically take the water cooler and put it in there.
Yeah, and like you said, we follow like all our competitors' blogs. Right.
So you take a blog line search or something, competitor blog.
Right. All those.
Well, actually, with Google, can't you with Google Alerts create an RSS feed now? I think you can. So you can create a Google alert for.
Yeah, I mean you can do that, but this is just easier when it's all there in your company network. The other thing we use it for is Twitter streams about our own product name.
So you pull in the RSS feed
for
if somebody
Yammer
says
and
Yammer.
for Genie.
Got it.
And then we can talk about those items.
That's brilliant. Here is Zelek software. Zelek software. Anytime we pull up somebody's Twitter, it's the responsibility of the super fans on the This Week in Startup show to go follow them, so they feel the impact of the This Week in Startup Nation. Question: are you worried that Twitter will make an enterprise system to compete with Yammer?
Right. Well, I guess a few different things. One is they've got a lot of things to do, and I'm not sure that building sort of Web 2.0 kind of company intranet, which is what Yammer's become now, is like should be the highest thing on their list. I think what we're finding is that as we're building the product out, it's sort of deviating from its Twitter-like roots to really to serve the enterprise better. So, for example, I mean, right from the beginning, we never had the 140-character limit because it made less sense inside a company. You can attach files to messages, so you can do file sharing. There's a lot more hierarchy in Yammer. We have groups. We have all these enterprise features. So I think there'd be meaningful trade-offs that they'd have to make in their consumer product, if they want to serve the enterprise market. And I think, the beauty of Twitter, for me, is it's a public discussion. It's the whole world. Right. So trying to do like private domains, it feels like it's not core to what they're doing.
They certainly haven't proven themselves to be feature dominant. They've given away images to multiple companies. They've given away groups. They don't seem to want to be the application developer. They want Seismic to make the desktop application or the other Twirl or whatever. They don't want to do it themselves.
Right, but even their core platform, I think there's so many more things they could do that would enable better search and discovery of information, right? Sure. Whereas we're trying to create a closed space, and that's so I think it's pretty different.
They see themselves as a platform. You're a very deep application, so you're getting a little bit away from just being like sort of Twitter for enterprise. You're trying to add features like this threaded discussion and file sharing.
Right. I mean, we're kind of Twitter plus Facebook for enterprise, but
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think the starting point with microblogging was just that the one thing that sort of all anyone wants to do in social networks anymore is post status updates, right? So that's what we started with, and a lot of these other applications like photos or videos or whatever, they're just attachments to status updates. Right. So and even Facebook now has gone in that direction, right?
Yeah,
where everything's a status update.
Yeah.
So I think it was the right place to start, but a lot of what we're doing now is exposing more intelligence about what's happening inside your company.
Yeah.
It's pretty different.
See, like these are the hashtags in your company are much more interesting to you than the hashtags in the world.
Right. You can actually see what people are talking about. What are people actually spending their time doing, and things
and
like
at a big company, that's got to get really interesting. Yeah. You got 1,000. I mean, a 40-person company, everybody's in the same room. Right. Everybody eats lunch together. But a 400-person company, 4,000, 40,000, it's got dramatic ramifications. Right. I mean, you don't even know who on what campus is talking about that TechCrunch story. Now you know, hey, there's 17 people who are interested in this TechCrunch story about Google Wave or whatever. Right. Final question from the audience. Do you view companies like SocialText and PBWiki as competitors? Wikis reviews?
They're, I think, pretty squarely now trying to compete with us.
Yeah.
I guess SocialText launched their kind of microblogging product, and I guess PBWiki less so. I mean, we don't really see ourselves as
you guys really need to add a sort of wiki-like document repository, because we have Yammer running here. The dev team likes wiki. They like having a punch list and wiki discussion forum there. It's a really good complement. So I think maybe SocialText is really going to prove to be a very good competitor. By adding that, you guys are probably going to need to add something.
Yeah, we have file sharing right now.
Collaborative documents, though.
I
different.
think, I mean, I think we could do more with that. my feeling about the wiki space is that it's really hard to get your average employee to engage with a wiki. You have to learn like camel type or whatever
Absolutely.
it is. Like
Wikitext.
It's like a whole language, and
Yeah.
I don't think it's a mainstream behavior really.
No, but you could do a WYSIWYG or something and just
yeah.
let people do it.
I mean,
easy enough.
we think that ultimately status updates and conversations, things that are more like mail, are the way that users really want to engage and collaborate and communicate. But I think you're right that we need to do a better job with file sharing and things like that.
Also tasks. I brought this up with you, like punch lists, little task lists, like things we need to get done. So here's a project, or here's a group, and here's our group's task.
It's in our pipeline.
Yeah, that's really, to me, that's when it's going to be a killer feature. When I can tweet, Yammer, please do X, this person, or at, Lon Harris, please do, at Lon Harris, pound task, blah, 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 priority equals 1.
Right.
Or something like that. So I'm on the road or I'm at a Starbucks and I can start putting shit on people's punch list.
Yeah, we want to have a much greater variety.
My employees are really thrilled with that idea, by the way, as if they don't get enough things from me while I'm running through the Southwest terminal.
Yeah, I mean, what you're describing, we kind of see as a message attachment, and we want to enable a much greater range of attachments. So a task could be one, maybe events could be another, things like that.
Program for you to take a look at in the history of email. It's called the Communicator. People refer to this as the Nazi email program. I installed it at Amnesty International. And with the Communicator, if anybody used the Communicator on Twitter, please tell me, because I'm looking for somebody else who even knows what this problem is or a link to anything about the history of the Communicator. You couldn't send an email to somebody in the Communicator. You had to pick what type it was. So this is a question, a request for information, whatever. So if I sent, or a task, if I sent a question to you, you had to respond to it as, before you could start typing, an answer, a clarification, or a refusal to answer, or I'd rather not answer. So it structured the conversations in a way that it forced the person who was receiving the message, this is what I want from you. Don't email me back with,
Well, that's exactly the kind of cognitive overhead in creating content that we want to avoid, right? We just want to let people just start posting what they want, right? That's the beauty of Twitter. It's the beauty of status updates. So,
interesting.
I mean, that's why we kind of made it less structured.
Right.
But over time, you build up a pretty impressive knowledge base. I mean, all that stuff is searchable.
Right. Yeah, search does solve that problem. So, wow, this has been amazing. And now we should move to the news with Lon Harris. Look at this slide.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, commanding.
That is...
Commanding.
What is this music? I feel like...
I feel like we're remaking Glory.
The news with Lon Harris.
Yes.
So Lon Harris, we have different people get to sit in for the news. This is Lon Harris's chance to sit in for the news. So Lon, David will sit in for the news. You got a couple of minutes to sit in and riff on the news.
Yeah.
So Lon, take it away. What's our first news item?
Our first news item, Facebook has revealed the first 18 applications that will receive funding from its new FB fund. The companies behind the winning applications, they're going to work closely with Facebook engineers for 10 weeks. They're going to receive about $25,000 of funding each. The winners are Frintro, which is a matchmaking application, Paradise Paintball 3D, which is a paintball game, mychurch.org, which provides tools for churches to set up their own social networks. So what do you think of the program? You think 20 companies is too many in a 10-week program, or do you think it's just right?
Well, $25,000 for 10 weeks, $2,500 a week. I mean, it's enough for somebody to camp out in Palo Alto and do this. I see this more as marketing than as actual investment. Instead of, $250,000 wouldn't buy you a Super Bowl commercial, but the amount of press, wouldn't even buy you a regular commercial on network TV, I don't think. So to spend, was it 20 companies?
18 applications were chosen.
So $25,000 each, spending $500,000 on this.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Pretty easy marketing campaign. Hiring a PR firm is $20,000 a month. Buying ads. This is a great way to get young people at Stanford, at some computer science program, psyched. It's like a little mini TechCrunch 50 for them. Sure. It's a way for them to inspire people to build for the platform, to educate people for building the platform. Microsoft did stuff like this by giving kickbacks and stuff like that at developer conferences, free training.
Sure.
It's a brilliant idea, and the fund is set up as a venture fund, so in some ways it competes with Y Combinator.
Yes, right.
And micro funds like that.
Exactly.
So I have to say, Founders Fund set this up.
Founders Fund is a partner with them on it.
With Facebook, yes. And Founders Fund is the investor in Facebook. So, this is all in the family. If one of these things becomes Zanga, it pays for 10 years of this. Zanga's making a lot of money, tens of millions of dollars. So if they get one hit out of 5 years of doing this, 20, it's 100 of them. They'll get one hit. It will return the entire fund of $5 million probably. So it's a no-brainer, and it seems pretty brilliantly executed. They announced this at the TechCrunch conference 2 years ago, I believe.
That they were going to do again, then they had 50 finalists a few months ago, and then they've just this week
has taken
announced.
a long time to do this. I mean,
Yeah.
But impressive. David, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think, like you said, it's a good sort of marketing ploy to kind of encourage developers and, encourage the development of good apps.
Right.
I think, Facebook, I think, still has this fundamental issue with, the incentives of developers and aligning those with the core platform. I mean, I get lots of notification spam from applications, and it just designed it for me to go to the app where, I do 2 clicks because there's nothing to do, and then I click an ad to get out because it's like flashing the biggest thing on the page, and then it takes me to some like deceptive offer. So I think too many of the apps are still essentially in this spam and scam mode.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem, is that they haven't. I think Facebook for the last couple of years has still been a little bit behind the 8 ball in terms of trying to align those incentives. So I think now, this program, I guess it's a way to encourage the development of apps that they think are actually helpful for the core platform.
Yeah, that's, I think, correct. And do you think they should take a iPhone approach and say we have to approve all applications? I mean, I think they would have a cleaner set, and this people associate iPhone applications with quality. They associate Facebook applications with spam and annoyance. And so people criticize the iPhone for the applications. It takes 6 weeks to get approved, blah, blah. But you know what? I've never downloaded a bad iPhone application. And I can tell you almost every application for Facebook has been either bad or wanting.
Yeah, I don't know, because I think Facebook already has a pretty sort of big government approach towards the platform, and it's pretty actively managed. I think the problem is just from the beginning, the incentives were to engineer virality as opposed to sort of engineering quality.
Right.
Because that's how you spread it. They threw open so many viral channels at the beginning. I think there's still that's still the mentality that a lot of the developers are in. And the most viral apps aren't necessarily the most useful apps. I mean, the top app on Facebook right now is this Pick 5 thing,
Yeah.
Which is really just profile information, like kind of info.
Yeah,
and
it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be there. Why do I need to get that in my feed? And I look at what Twitter did, and Twitter has created a platform which probably less than a fraction of 1% of the work. I mean, Facebook's platform is a much more impressive technological accomplishment than Twitter's RESTful API, but somehow Twitter is encouraging I think, more useful applications that extend the functionality of the core platform without ever, even if there's a bad app, it never can invade the core. Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's not like you can direct message people. It's not
all the app gets is that little source variable where it says who posted where it came from, and somehow I think that was just the right level of virality. It's like just enough to let a good app get distribution without encouraging spammy apps. And
the thing is, when I think you're right. Just so people know what David's talking about, if you pull up my screen for a second, you can see here. David needs some of the features of Basecamp. I want Sandy. This is Kevin Weissner's question from before, but it says that he posted by Tweety, and if I click, it takes you to that page. So it's just enough,
just enough.
It's in light gray. It's not overbearing. I've never even seen this.
I think what it does is it means that the developer primarily has to spend their time engineering quality, something a user's going to want, right? Because that virality is not powerful enough by itself to kind of get millions of users.
Right.
Whereas on Facebook, you can have a really bad app and it can get millions of users.
I mean, some of those applications are just over the top. And what it forced Zuckerberg to do was sort of go back on his promise of we're here for the app developers, and say, you know what, we're going to ghettoize all apps because they suck, and put them on the second tab. They had to take back their front page.
Right.
So I think he's broken the contract with the developers. Sorry, Zuck. Hope to have you on the show sometime. I guess that's over. But I feel like they've broken their contract with them because they've misbehaved. So now it's a dysfunctional marriage.
I don't know. I mean, I guess my point of view is that if I were Facebook, I'd be even more aggressive about protecting the core platform. So I think that
so
kind of ghettoizing the apps behind a profile tab was a good move. I still think that the notification channels, whether it's notifications, requests,
why is this in my email box?
The news feed.
It doesn't need to be in my email box. It's too much.
But even the news feed, I feel like
protected.
I feel like my Twitter stream is actually higher quality than my Facebook stream, just because there's still too much app spam in my newsfeed.
This is a great, I think, conversation for people who are building stuff. You know, you can sacrifice quality to increase virality to a point, and then it backfires on you, and you basically have poisoned the pond. You know?
Yeah, well, and you know, one of the things we found out at Genie, so we just implemented Facebook Connect. We also have a Facebook app, and we're trying to integrate with Facebook as much as possible because we don't want people to have to reinvent the wheel, right?
Sure.
And you know, we're going to keep working with them. But one of the things we found out is that actually our email invites convert better than our Facebook requests because the Facebook request channel is so burnt out by spammy apps. So, you know, it's
like open your mailbox. You ever open your mailbox and you're just like, I'm going to get one piece of mail I want and 9 pieces of catalogs and other things. I mean, the U.S. Postal Mail is FUBAR.
Right. And I think you know the conundrum for Facebook is, you know, like I said, I think they have to be more aggressive about protecting users from bad apps. At the same time, I don't think big government works, and so how do you regulate? I don't.
He's trying to make a trust system. Like he wants to make Google AdSense or something. Not Google AdSense. Google PageRank. He wants to make a trust rating like eBay for applications. This is what he told me.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen that, and I certainly haven't seen the result of that in using Facebook.
Yeah.
Facebook feels, the applications on Facebook feel very annoying, and I think what maybe they should do is create like a gold star or something and be like, these are gold star applications, like a Michelin star, that they rated on how good and the users rate it, and therefore those get more promotion and get pushed to the top.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very heavy-handed approach. I mean, I think it'd probably be better than what they have now, but the problem is, like you look at Twitter, right? They're not doing any of that stuff. And you see more
It's self-regulating. You make a great point.
So it's sort of like somehow Twitter just calibrated the incentives right from the get-go so that they can have kind of a libertarian sort of small government, no regulation, and it just works.
Yeah, if it's good,
And you're
people
seeing
use it. If
exactly.
It's not,
and Facebook, I think it's tricky. It's like, you know, the more they regulate it, it's tough.
I think I've got it. Your success in Facebook is based on your ability to game the system as much as possible. And your success in Twitter is based on the quality of your application and the merit of it.
Right.
And it's because they gave you too many ways to promote in Facebook.
It's just the returns. If you think about what's going to attract users, right? If you're an application developer and you can invest your time, you know, you're going to work for a given day. Are you going to work on a feature that makes it more viral and get more users, or are you going to focus on a feature that's actually like hard and creates real value for users? You're going to focus on the one that gets more users, basically. And you know, and I think that's the problem. It's just it's too easy to get viral, I think, on Facebook in a way.
Yeah. Just a little note, for the person who posts the most insightful comment during the news segment, we're going to give you a free ticket to TechCrunch 50. So post the most insightful comment, put #TWiST at the end. Whoever does the most insightful comment gets a free ticket to TechCrunch 50. And should I invite them to the VIP party? That's too much. You just get a free ticket. You don't come to the VIP party. Then Arrington's going to get pissed off at me.
It wouldn't be a VIP party if you're just inviting.
No.
Just
I can get a ticket to TechCrunch 50. I can't promise the VIP party.
Okay.
If it's the most colossally great comment, maybe. But if you post a great comment about the news...
Someone should do something around VIT, very important tweet.
Yes, this is a very important tweet comment. If you get the very important tweet correct, you get a free ticket to TechCrunch 50. So we had the Facebook thing, make an intelligent comment on that. And the next news story is...
Here, I left my
it only
iPhone
took us
out
about
there.
15 minutes to get to the first news story, so we'll be out of here by about 4 p.m.
This is such a dynamite news story.
It is.
Jump
Yeah, it
all
just
over
flows.
yeah.
Well done.
Thank you. There's a new search engine, Topsy. It scours Twitter looking for its links. Results are then sorted based on the influence of the person who tweeted, T-O-P-S-Y.
This is what Loic Lemaire said. Yeah, keep going.
Yes. Well, the concept behind who's more influential is based on, you know, all kinds of variables, mainly based around how many people you follow and how many people retweet you. I should note, everyone in this room, we are all considered highly influential. So congratulations, guys. So what do you think? What do you think of a system like this? Is this something you would use? And how far away are we from Twitter just being a primary search engine, like where you go to find what's new and informative?
Twitter's getting close. I mean,
yeah,
it's there. I mean,
it's good for sentiment, but it's not going to replace. I'm looking for a Paris hotel. I want to buy an iPod, right? There's search is not one thing. There's a lot of searches. There's navigational search, like I want to go to the MySpace website. There's informational search, I'm looking for a fact. There's
but what if
product research, but there's sentiment and buzz, and it's brilliant at sentiment and buzz.
Right, but what if you index the web pages based on how many times they get retweeted, right? Or
Right,
like
but
that.
then, you know, who's going to retweet a page about cancer from the American Cancer Organization may never get retweeted. And then things like Gawker stories or, you know, some buzzy story or salacious story, they're going to get. So it's a piece. of the puzzle, I believe.
Right.
But this is a good idea to come up with who's authoritative based on retweeting. It's sort of like PageRank. I can tell you, I know for a fact that Twitter is working on this already. So Topsy is probably out-featured Twitter for the moment, but Twitter will out-brand them in a very short period of time. There will be a checkbox on Twitter search, I know for a fact, with ranking based on the stuff. Loic predicted this, Loic Yammer from Seismic, that he wanted to have this. It was everybody got really pissed off. Oh my God, everybody's tweets should be created equal.
Right.
You know, and it's just like, well,
No,
not exactly.
An influence filter would be really helpful.
Well,
Right.
when you have an earthquake thing, it's like, okay, it's great. When the earthquake happened here in LA, 40,000 tweets in 15 minutes maybe, because I left that little thing open. And then I said, you know what, I can't possibly go through 40,000. I can go through 20 or 40
Right.
maybe. But would you like to have the 20, 40 most influential people's
Right.
reaction to the earthquake? Yes.
Definitely.
That is interesting to
Right.
see what Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore and a newscaster.
Well,
Or maybe I don't care, actually. Maybe I care more about what my friends... Actually, the truth is you care more about what your friends say than anything. But yes, this is Topsy's an interesting idea. Topsy will not exist as a brand in 5 years. Twitter search will. So there's another example of somebody doing something interesting that's a feature, but it's not going to become a brand, I don't think. I don't know. What do you think?
but well, it's an example though of the huge potential of retweets, right? Using that in lots
Yes.
of different ways. I actually, this week, I wrote a sort of guest post for TechCrunch on the potential of retweets, suggesting that Twitter should support it as an official feature.
Retweeting.
Yeah, it's just like @replies is this convention that the users themselves have invented, which is a
Pound.
very
Yeah.
well. Pound is for tagging. I'm talking about for the
Pound-
RT.
Yeah. RT, but Pound was user created.
Right. Tagging would be another one as well. Although I'm not sure what they would do to support it exactly. I guess with retweet, what I'm suggesting is that they actually put a RT button on messages.
Yes.
So if you write something I like, I just click RT, and then all my followers will see your message, but in its original form.
Right.
So I don't have to like sit there and like type that up and all that
RT
stuff.
should be a standard, just like @
Right.
became a standard.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Pound has become a standard. And Pound
Right.
with tags, if they were actively lit up and
Right, that's true,
sent you
yeah.
to search, that would be the same thing.
Right, right.
So I concur.
Well, Summeyes is doing that already.
Summeyes does.
But yeah,
That's
you're
what
right.
you're
They could do
seeing
it on.
is, it seems like this. The users come up with a standard, the third-party app developers adopt it,
Right.
and then Twitter considers it. It's a
It's
process.
pretty
backward.
Well, it's a pretty nice place to be actually if you're Twitter, where the users are literally inventing the features for you. I don't think there's been anything like this.
Twitter's a business phenomenon, and a product development unlike any we've seen, where they've done nothing in terms of adding features, and
Right.
so much has been developed. It's so brilliant.
Right.
It's transformative. I mean, the product is transformative. The business lessons are truly transformative.
Right.
Of doing less, letting the community create more.
Well, it's tough to say. I mean, they had that 9-month period where basically it wasn't growing and they didn't do anything, and then finally it just
True.
took off. Right. Most companies that haven't been growing for 9 months and continue to do nothing, well,
Push
die.
your plug. Boop.
Yeah. So I don't know if you can extrapolate a business lesson there, but it was good that they left well enough alone, obviously, because it took off just the way
Well, I
it
mean,
was.
but you and I are product guys, I would say. We sit there and obsess about the product.
Right.
As CEOs, I would say we are product CEOs.
Right.
We're also deal guys, but product primarily, then deal secondary, I would say. We sit there and say, what can we add to our product?
Right.
We don't sit there and say, what can the users add to the product?
Right.
You know? And we just had a huge conversation about, gosh, these are all the features I want to see in Yammer. And up at the Twitter offices, they're having sushi right now, and they're like, hey, did you see this thing some user built? Now, was there something they did that caused that, or did that just happen because they didn't have the time to do something and people stepped in?
Well, I think.
And they were too busy keeping the service up.
Well, I think there's something unique about their service where it's just so simple and flexible
Right.
that users can invent this notation. It's like this basic communication system where users invent the notation and it's become incredibly valuable. I don't know how the users of most products could simply add features, right?
Right. Twitter is dial tone. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and I think, and on top of that, they've got this simple API, which people are starting to build all this sorts of crazy stuff on top of, very useful stuff. And so you're right, they can sit back and just say, hey, let's let the third-party developers, figure out what people want, and then, they can acquire, like they did with I think one of the best moves they made was acquiring Summeyes, which is their search engine.
They got really good developers out of that.
Got great developers and a good product. I mean,
Yeah.
and now it's been incorporated into the core Twitter experience. So, I mean, yeah, they're in that nice position. But I think they do have to kind of make it scale. I mean, that's the thing that, they have to make the data stream better and better, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So, but I do think there are going to be things that they have to do. I think that if they just, I think if they don't keep adding features, I mean, the rest of the world isn't standing still. You know that.
Yeah.
You know that Zuckerberg at Facebook every day is thinking about, like, why are people using Twitter for sharing, and how do we take some of that magic? So
Not only thinking about it, he rivals Bill Gates in his ability to knock shit off. I mean, I don't want to be rough to Zuckerberg, but I mean, I have never seen somebody take such a big enterprise like Facebook and then just so blatantly rip off Twitter so many times.
well, I think good product people steal.
Of course,
And,
immature ones copy.
Yeah, but I mean, let's not forget that Facebook
But to change
they
the
invented the
homepage?
news feed. I mean,
Right.
so they have. I think they've
But
made
the newsfeed is not
Right.
the Twitter stream, which was based more on the comment threads on MySpace or blogging. And to radically change the homepage from the newsfeed to a Twitter interface
right.
against the wishes of 90% of the staff, 90% of
Right.
the user base, shows some level of vision and or arrogance that is Bill Gates level.
Well, I mean, I think
Yes or no?
Well, I think if you were to criticize the homepage redesign,
Right.
I would say that maybe it felt a little bit rushed. I mean,
Yes.
they went through that whole multi-month process with the profile redesign, where they
Yes.
went through iterations of it with users.
Yeah.
And the users told them what they wanted, and they did such a great job listening that when that thing finally was released, like, no complaints, everyone just accepted it. And they didn't really go through that with this, so it felt like it was just like this reactionary thing almost, like,
Yeah.
whoa, like Twitter's getting traction, let's try and staunch that by putting this out
So
there.
a mistake or not?
Well, it felt to me like it should have been tested a little bit
clearly
more.
rushed, but ultimately a mistake or not going to that format.
Well, I don't think the format change is a mistake. I think in some ways it's a lot more useful, but it still feels to me like it's halfway between where it used to be and where it's going.
Yeah.
But
it is kind of stunning, don't you think, the way he's running such a large enterprise and just like, I am going to change this. This is how it's going to be.
Right.
I mean, that is a very Bill Gates, and also releasing a product before it's ready, Windows.
Right.
I mean, Bill Gates saw the writing on the wall very quickly.
Right.
Mac operating system, Windows, is
Right.
the GUI is so much better.
Right.
I have to get off DOS, and I don't care if Windows sucks. I mean, Windows
Right.
runtime was a piece of crap, and he just
Right.
pushed it out the door and said, who cares?
Right.
Get it
out. Well, I think that on the whole, I think it's worked for them. You'd have to say that on the whole, it's worked for them, that they've done these major releases. I do think there's a concern about exhausting users with the pace of change and all these redesigns. You look at
Right.
Twitter and the simplicity of it and how it doesn't change very much, and
Right.
it seems like they're very cautious about changing the interface. And I think users like that on some level,
Consistency.
the consistency. So I do think that Facebook has to be a little bit careful about
Yeah, shaking it too much.
Yeah, exhausting users. But on the other hand, I would say that it has worked for them. And I do think that the major danger of most technology companies is that they just don't do anything. I mean, you look
Right.
at like Yahoo, eBay. I mean,
Yeah, how has
PayPal.
Yahoo changed?
I know, or even like on PayPal. I'm sorry to say, since we sold the company. I mean,
There is nothing different about PayPal today than when you left.
I know. They
Zero.
changed the logo, but I mean, that's
Doesn't
about
count.
it. I
Doesn't
know,
count.
cosmetic stuff. But anyway,
Doesn't count.
yeah, and I think that
The placement of the logo is the same place. The login box is the same.
Right, exactly. So the problem is that technology has a half-life. The ice is melting under your feet, and I don't care how strong your monopoly is or your network effects, the ice is melting under your feet. Like, look at eBay, right?
Yeah.
10 years ago, its network effects were considered insuperable. Now it's shrinking.
Yeah.
And it's just because they haven't iterated. And so I think that
I mean,
there's always this danger of just what happens if you don't do anything. And so I think on the
Paralysis.
whole, paralysis, exactly. And so I think on the whole, I really respect the fact that Facebook's been able to iterate and like do such impressive, releases
On such a big aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
I mean, they turn that aircraft carrier around like it's a little cigarette.
Right. And the crowdsourced translation, the international rollout was an A+.
Yeah.
I mean, let's not forget about that. And
Yeah,
so,
and then the release of, what was the advertising platform that pissed everybody off? It was a code name. Tyler? Beacon.
Right.
What a disaster that
yeah,
was.
so it's hit and miss. It's hit and
Yeah.
miss. Yeah.
It's certainly interesting to watch a guy like Zuckerberg just kill it and just do such a great job.
Right.
I mean, he's very impressive. Have you met him?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on Zuckerberg
Yeah, I mean,
on a personal interaction basis?
well, I think he's a hard guy to get to know, as probably a lot of people have commented.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure I'm in a position to say what he's like.
Right.
But
What's interacting with him like? Reminds you of a quiet Peter Thiel, Bill Gates-esque interaction, perhaps?
I Maybe a little bit, if
Yeah.
that's what you want me to say. But
No, I'm just curious. No, I found him very considered.
yeah,
You know, he's like the kind of guy you ask a question to, and he waits 30 seconds and goes,
just thinking about it. Yeah,
"Yeah,
yeah,
well, maybe." And he's like, you see
Right.
the wheels
yeah,
are spinning.
yeah. That's true.
You know, that was my impression, which is
Right,
the same
right.
experience you get when you talk to Gates or Jobs or
They're
Bezos.
really thinking about it.
You can tell there's like 8 processors being cooled
Right.
with liquid nitrogen behind
Right.
those
yeah.
eyes.
Yeah, you do get that with Peter sometimes too. Yeah.
Yeah. The look I don't get when I look in the mirror. There's just not much going on there. It's just
Sounds
definitely.
kind of frightening, like liquid nitrogen.
It's only.
in there.
I would say it's Terminator-esque. Like,
Yeah,
you get the sense
right.
that when the Terminators, like, they're just scanning you and they're like not a threat. That's the sense I got
So
with
he's trying
Zuckerberg.
to
He was like scanning me. He's like not a threat. So
he's trying to figure out if
Move on
you're
to the next
closing
thing.
him.
Then he saw Ev Williams. It was like boop. It was me, Ev Williams, and him, and like one or two other players, like at the TED John Brockman Edge dinner, and he was just like scanning Calcanis, not a threat. Twitter, and he was just like really on Evan, asking Evan questions 2 years ago. True story. All right, next story.
Next story. You guys want to do another Twitter story? I got
Yeah,
another
of
one.
course. What else
New
is there in
startup,
this?
TweetBucks. It's a way to make a profit from using Twitter. You go find a product you like on Amazon.com, BestBuy.com, a site like that. You go to TweetBucks. They shorten the URL for you and turn it into an affiliate link.
Yeah.
So you then go like, I love these slippers I found on Amazon. Post the link, and then every time somebody goes and buys
Yeah.
those slippers, you get a little
Which you could do yourself.
kickback, which you could do yourself. But this is
Just take one step
shortening
out of it.
Yes.
That's a decent idea. I believe Twitter is well within their right and should take any eBay, Amazon, Zappos affiliate code and put their code on it. If Twitter does that and they affiliate everything in their system, I said this during my keynote at the Twitter 140 conference last week, they would make a ton of money.
Sure.
Just so I think it's an interesting business. It's a feature, not a product, and it's certainly not a brand. So
It's just a new website. It's not.
it's a feature.
Okay, fair enough.
Feature, product, business brand. This is a feature.
That's the hierarchy. Do you think there's an unwritten sort of Twitter rule though that your opinion should be your own and not because you're trying to make a buck, or is this totally legit?
It's just like the real world. You know, some people will come up to you and be like, you should really try these vitamins, and then you find out they're an Amway salesman. You know,
Right.
like, and then you just keep those people out of your life. You know, it's like people who email you, they're like, "Oh, would you like to meet with my money manager?" And people email me like, "Oh, I know this guy's a real estate broker." You know, like everybody hates money managers and real estate brokers. If you become the person who's twittering about this stuff all the time, people are just going to hate you
stop
and
following you.
avoid you and stop following you. Just like nobody's going to dinner with like a bunch of real estate brokers, financial guys, advisors, or whatever. Like people have those people in their lives. They generally don't like them. No offense.
No.
I don't know. What do you think about
Great
that? Like the authenticity of.
Well, I mean, if you're concerned that people are publishing things they shouldn't on Twitter, just unfollow them. So it's sort
Yeah,
of,
self-correcting.
I mean, they do have to worry about the spam factor. You know, you do get, you know, there's a growing spam problem on Twitter. They're going to have to address at some point.
Well, I think actually right now you can just put @spam and then you tell what user you think is spamming and you alert their spam team. So
Yeah, I don't know how much that. I see people do that all the time, and then those accounts remain sort of active. I don't know how much that actually does.
Well,
the
they got to be
spam.
careful because they do do that. So next story.
The next story, Hulu launched a new desktop application. You can watch Hulu in full screen. You can use your computer's remote control to watch it. Basically turns your computer into sort of a TV. Have you tried it? Do you think that this is going to be a significant thing? Is this a big thing holding web video back, the browser?
Now we know why they stopped Boxy.
Right.
Remember Boxy? They were
Yes.
like, you can't do this because our affiliate partners are not comfortable with it.
Right.
Lie. That was a lie. They didn't want you doing Boxy took Hulu streams and put it instead of in a browser window, you could just pick from a menu, like a
Right.
guide, and the Hulu guys essentially lied and said, "Oh, we got to stop Boxy from doing this because our partners are not comfortable with it," which was not true. They were launching a competing product, and they want to be the interface for that. What's stupid about that is who cares? Hulu should not care who interfaces with their product. Duh, very short-sighted.
But all Hulu is an interface, right? The real product is the content.
But it's owned by the companies, so therefore it's Hulu owns the products it's serving. You know, ergo. The only 10% of the companies owned by private equity firm. It's a third between GE, Disney,
News Corp.
and News Corp. So essentially, it's just their holding company for their digital, assets of it. So who cares if it's through the interface of Boxy, the web, Mahalo, Yammer, Twitter? Let anybody stream it. You care about the ad.
Right.
Well, the big media companies, they don't want to let go. I mean,
Yeah.
they really feel like they need to have control over distribution end to end.
Right.
Or
Right. Even the software that's going to frame it,
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a brilliant idea. I mean,
Right.
it sucks to nobody. The browser is the worst possible interface when you're 5 feet away on your couch. You need big text in lists, search box,
Yeah.
a bunch of images, Windows Media Center, all this other stuff. So
This is pretty cool. It works really well. And it's got almost all of the Hulu.com content is just fed right in there. So
it's genius. I mean, they have Kurosawa films on there.
they do. That's true. 7
Who knew?
Free.
Free. Keep going.
Should we do the Deadpool?
Uh-oh. Here we go.
There we go. Such a tragedy. So sad. That graphic
is
is
that like algae
frightening.
in there?
Yeah.
That is a baby pool in the backyard that has seen better
just
days.
filled with sewage or something. This week in the Deadpool, handheld computer producers OQO.
Oh, no.
Back in April, they canceled all pre-orders for their Model 2 Plus device, which was a 5-inch touchscreen PC that was going to sell for about $1,000. They said difficult economic times, they're going to push it back now. They have shut down completely. What do you think? Is this an inability to compete with smartphones, netbooks?
I'm pulling up the OQO website right now. OQO is way ahead of its time. I have one. When I was doing Engadget, I don't know, 5 years ago, they sent me one to look at. I've got it in the box. It booted Windows. It was brilliant. The iPhone is more brilliant.
Right.
They were way ahead of everybody. But there's an expression we have in the industry, the first guy up the hill gets the arrows. This is the perfect case of it, so I guess OQO.
OQO, we have it right here.
Oh, no. Here we go. Sorry.
So sad.
There you go. OQO. Into the Deadpool. But, importantly, OQO tried. And there's OQO right next to Jimmy Wales. Jimmy Wales, Jimmy Fails, Wikia Search. Gave up after a year. Sorry, Jimmy. It's nothing personal. But it is. Business is very personal. I can't tell you how happy. I mean, I'm not happy at anybody's failures.
No.
Except for Jimmy Wales's. I love the fact that he went on the cover of a magazine and said, Google's worst nightmare. And then quit after 12 months and gave up.
It was a nightmarish 12 months, though.
I mean, it was pretty bad.
Pretty bad.
Frankly, I would have killed myself.
Aw.
I would have literally committed seppuku. Jimmy, it's always an option.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh, poor
regrettable.
guy.
Sorry, Jimmy.
Poor guy.
The only reason I really hate the guy, I'll tell you honestly, people say, why do I hate Jimmy Wales? Because Larry Sanger came up with the idea for Wikipedia. Larry Sanger named the Wikipedia. He came up with the idea for using a wiki to create an encyclopedia, and Jimmy Wales tried to deny the guy his rightful place as a co-founder of the Wikipedia. The Wikipedia community, you can look this up under Jimmy Wales or Larry Sanger, or Wikipedia in Wikipedia, forced him to admit that he was a co-founder because in press releases, they referred to him as a co-founder for years, and Jimmy would not share the spotlight with them. I think the worst thing you can do, Jimmy, is take away a man's credit, or a woman's credit, a human's credit, for doing something so great as Wikipedia. I give you a lot of credit for being involved in the creation of Wikipedia, but I think you should give credit to Larry Sanger as being the true founder. He really is the true founder of Wikipedia. Jimmy Wales played a supporting role, truth be told, in the creation of Wikipedia, yet Jimmy Wales would not give Larry Sanger, who's a very soft-spoken, brilliant guy, the credit he deserves. I will never forgive Jimmy Wales for that. Also, he was a bit of a jerk to me, but that's a
Jimmy
separate
Wales?
story. Yeah,
Not
but I don't want to go
good
off on a
interaction?
tangent. I never say anything bad about another entrepreneur.
See, in the movie business, we have the opposite problem. Like, some
What's
people
that?
get credit who didn't even do anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, they're just like, at the end of the movie's completely done, it's won the film
Right.
festivals, and they're just like, hey, Jason Calacanis production, and they put the slide right on the front, and it's just like, that person
First thing.
hasn't even seen the film.
Yeah. We had like a dozen producers on a thing for smoking.
Yeah,
Pretty
exactly.
incredible.
All right, next story. Oh, so anyway, OQO, pull up this website for a second here. It was a great product. I know the guy who started it. I forgot his name, but he was a brilliant guy. All the credit in the world because you tried. You tried. You may have failed. It's not a failure. It's a life lesson. You're going to go on and make something great. It was a very sophisticated product that was very beautiful. But sometimes you step in front of, the iPhone train. Nobody's going to win.
Right.
You're not going to win. And that's, you step in front of the Google train, you step in front of the iPhone train, you step in front of the Facebook train. Some of these things are just too big to win.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that,
Right.
as long as you get back up and try again. And so to the OQO team, good job trying. We made a little bit of joke putting you in the Deadpool. The truth is we have a lot of great respect for you and for the work you put into it.
Right. And as entrepreneurs, I mean, there but for the grace of God go I.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I could be getting a bullet any time here. Not with Mahalo 2 coming out June 2nd in New York City at the New York Tech Meetup. You missed the switch. Do we have anybody running the TriCaster? Next story.
Next story. On the subject of Wikipedia, perfect segue, the site has banned members of the Church of Scientology from contributing to the site after they've accused a number of Scientologists of editing the site from church computers. The Wikipedia Arbitration Committee decided 10 to 0 unanimously for the ban. They said the group was damaging Wikipedia's reputation for neutrality. It's the largest group ban in the site's history. So do you think this is fair? You think it's the right move that Wikipedia found out these people were editing their own pages and banned them?
Well, let's unpack exactly what ban means. They banned the Scientology IP addresses from the Church of Scientology's offices.
Yes. And they've said they don't want Church of Scientology members editing Scientology pages.
Okay, the Wikipedia has a rule of you can't edit pages that you have a vested interest in.
Right.
You can debate that concept, but it has resulted in a great product. This is called the neutral point of view. So I shouldn't be editing my page, Mahalo's page, the TechCrunch 50 page. David shouldn't edit the PayPal page, whatever.
Right.
And it seems like the pages do pretty well in general, 80% well, 60% well, 70% well, without our involvement. And it creates a neutral point of view. If we were involved in it, it creates a massive debate that will never get resolved because then you'd have the 20 PayPal founders debating who should be listed first, etc. Better that debate occur with people who are neutral.
But for a religion, though, I mean, if you're a Christian and you want to edit the Christianity page, I don't think anybody would be saying you're not allowed. As a Jew, I can't touch the Judaism page because I'm involved in that group. So that's I kind of think one of the ramifications of this. More
the
so
question
than a
would
company.
be, so is the affiliation, what affiliation makes you unable to be unbiased and on what pages?
Right, yes.
Is the question. So Scientology, we're talking about a small number of pages. Maybe there's 50 related Scientology pages.
The Xenu page is epic.
Right. The
Epic.
Xenu page is epic.
Epic.
Now, so the question is, if you're Jewish or Catholic like I am, or was Catholic, or whatever I am, should I not be able to edit the page of anybody who is Catholic? Right. Maybe that is not the example of neutral point of view, because maybe there's no Catholicism on the page about fellow Catholics. And so maybe they're not able to edit the pages about specifically Scientology, but they could edit a page about Tom Cruise.
Right.
The problem is, I think, the Scientologists... Listen, I have friends who are Scientologists. A lot of them play on my poker game, whatever. I'm actually very close friends with a couple of them. They're not as crazy as they seem, frankly. The behaviors that a portion of the Scientologists exhibit in terms of sort of like protecting themselves make them seem crazy. Because and all these specials with the BBC where they're chasing people, following them, and trying to defend themselves, make them seem truly crazy. Just like, you know, some Catholic folks look totally crazy, some Hasidics in Brooklyn look totally crazy to people because of some of their behaviors. All religion's a little nutty. So I think they're going to get the treatment that they deserve from Wikipedia community. And the Wikipedia people are no, bed of roses either. I mean, these are wonky people as well who have very specific libertarian strong views. And the internet culture hates the non-transparency of Scientology. If I was running Scientology, if I was David, whatever his name is, I would be David
Miscavige or something?
Just Miscavige.
Are you a Scientologist?
Well,
how has Scientology helped you with your launch of Yammer at TechCrunch 50?
yeah, very positive outlook on life.
Has it really?
Yeah.
Really, absolutely. Well, I want to talk to you about that because of the network. This is just, the reason this is not going to happen with other religions, and it's not really a religious issue, is because Scientology, number one, is not a religion. Scientology is a self-help program. Scientology is based on self-help techniques, psychology, much more than it is religion. The religious part of it, I believe, is just a tax advantageous thing. All the guys I know who are in Scientology say it's a way to make yourself more effective, and it uses all the self-help techniques you get in any of the books or psychology.
What's the thing with the aliens about?
that is folklore because the guy who came up with the system of Scientology, which is, I believe, a self-help program. I'm no expert on it, but whatever. He was a science fiction author who came up with a self-help program. They layered religion on it to get tax benefit, which creates this whole thing.
Right.
Scientology should do two things. One, they should give up their religious status, pay their taxes. Number one, I believe. Because then they can just say, we're a self-help program, which is what we are. We help people with their lives. And a lot of the stuff they do is very good. Tom Cruise talking about exercising, curing depression, and nutrition. There is a definitive link between exercise, nutrition, and depression.
Sure, yeah.
Right, well, there's also a definitive link between medicine and curing.
Absolutely, right. So one does not negate the other. So this is the problem they
Right.
have is they take these weird, strong things, and what they've done is now it's this weird, strong group that has their set of beliefs with the Wikipedia group, which is a somewhat strange group in terms of libertarianism and freedom of speech, whatever weird. I wouldn't say weird. They're on the polar opposites in terms of fringe.
Yeah.
One wants to control information and messages. One wants total transparency. You put them together, you get a ban. It's not going to happen with Judaism or Catholicism because the Catholics and the Jews are not going in there saying, I have this agenda I have I go crazy about.
Oh, they could, though.
Well, in some cases they are with the Israeli and Palestinian pages, and those
sure.
pages are locked. But it does equal who cares? At the end of the day, who cares? You know, the Scientologists do this stuff, and they make themselves out to look crazy. They should give up the religious status and then become totally transparent. All the things they do in all the programs, they should make them, if they're so great for everybody, make them available. Hey, Scientology guys, I don't mean to pick a fight with you. Please don't stalk me.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to pick a fight with Scientologists. I know this is going to wind up on some Scientology message board.
We should add, we love Scientology here. Nobody's disparaging Scientology.
I am not disparaging
L. Ron
Scientology.
Hubbard, best entrepreneur.
Love it.
Hubbard, great
Love
entrepreneur.
It. Jenna Elfman is a fine actress.
I have a lot of I have a lot of friends who are into it.
No need to add us to your
and I've
database.
talked to my friends who are into it.
Right.
If it's so good, if it helps so many people, make every class available for free, live webcasted on Ustream. I will take a class live on Ustream, and I will tell you if it helped me. So there's my challenge to
quite
the
an offer.
Scientology people. If it's so great, and there's nothing funny going on, and you're so in love with it, Tom Cruise, why doesn't Tom Cruise get on Ustream and host a class on Ustream? And be totally transparent about it.
Think about it, they kind of took religion and put the freemium model on it.
It is a freemium model.
It is a freemium model.
Yeah, I mean, nobody will ever doubt the Scientologists' ability to create a business and buzz. Anyway, this has taken a crazy turn. Dave
This
is
has.
scared to death to bring up anything to do with Scientology.
Yeah, I'll just say that it was a delight to work with Katie Holmes on the movie and and leave it at that.
Right.
So
She was in the film.
yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
And that was before or after Tom Cruise?
It was in the
Midst of it.
the BC era, before Cruise.
Before
Yeah,
Cruise,
yes.
Yeah.
And she was normal.
Are you implying she's not normal now?
I don't know. I never.
She was very normal,
I don't
very
like
nice.
to judge people I haven't met.
Right.
I can tell you, I know personally a half dozen Scientologists because I've been at the poker table and Scientology comes up,
Right.
and then I start riffing, and then somebody goes, "By the way, we're all Scientologists," and I say, "Great, let's talk about it, whatever." They're very normal people.
Right.
As a matter of fact, some of them are very normal and very successful, and they don't. The ones I know have never said, "You know, Jason, can I optimize your ability to transcend?" You know, there's nothing weird like that going on with them.
Right.
Maybe they know not. Maybe they have like a personality type that they say don't approach, and like I'm in that group. But have you been approached to join Scientology?
No.
Have you?
Yes, many times because I grew up right near Tustin, California, which is where it sort of all got going. That's where L. Ron Hubbard started it. So there's lots of Scientologists
Where is
around
this?
there. Tustin, California. It's in Central Orange County.
And
I was in
so
Irvine, which is
how
right next door.
did they approach you?
They have these vans and they go set up at malls or wherever young people are going to be hanging out, and they invite you to a movie screening. That's how they approach people. They tell you want to come see a free movie,
Like Barat or something? Or?
then it's like a Scientology movie.
Oh, it's a recruitment movie.
So you go with them and you watch this movie, and then they're like, "Hey, we should give you an e-meter test." That's kind of how they sort of hook you, and sort of like how they do the personality tests on Hollywood Boulevard.
Can
Same
everybody
idea.
Twitter who's in there right now? Can we get a Scientologist on the show to talk about the business of Scientology? That would be a great
an interesting episode.
Who can speak to the business of Scientology, how they promote? I mean, I know it's a religion, but the business aspects of it, how they market it. all that stuff.
Got to be OT4 or above. That's it.
I don't know what that means. So basically
That's
invite you
your-
to a movie. And do you know anybody who's a Scientologist?
I do not know any Scientologists personally, but I know a lot of people who got sucked into this go see a movie, and then you end up having a 2-hour Scientology seminar where they're trying to sell you on it.
All right, let's do the homework assignment for everybody because we're now at hour 2 of
Oh,
the
my.
show. I mean, this is just ridiculous. We have a great guest. So here we go. Here's the homework assignment. I guess that's me with a
That's
cap
you with
on,
the mortar
homework.
board.
Okay, so there's no theme music for homework, but we do have a video we're going to play. I'm giving people homework now.
Okay.
So the idea here is you watch this, we'll discuss it next week. Somebody will call in and discuss last week's homework, a little discussion. I wanted you guys to see a film that I saw on my way to Australia to speak at the conference.
Seabit Australia.
Seabit Australia, great conference.
Great conference.
We had a good time there. Love Australia. We'll be back, Sydney. You guys invited me back this year. I couldn't make it, but I will be back next year, I promise. Hopefully. We should try to. We should really try to make it happen next
No,
year.
we tried to do this year, just schedule-wise.
Schedule-wise didn't work, but we will try to come next year, and I will try. I will finally dive the Great Barrier Reef, and we will make it to Melbourne. If we make it to Sydney, we will go to Melbourne because those Melbourne people are super pissed
I know
off.
that. It's almost like.
It's almost like if you go to Sydney, the Melbourne people are upset. Have you been to Sydney yet? Or you should come next year. This Seabit is incredible. The name of the film is Deep Water, correct? Deep Water.
Yes.
Tyler's seen
movie,
the film.
Great movie, yeah.
This is have you seen Deep Water?
I have seen Deepwater.
Well, who knew? So there's a reason why I want you to see this film. This film is about entrepreneurs doing things that are crazier and more insane than seemingly humanly possible. And it's just a great story about, and I want to say men here specifically because I don't see this trait in women as often, but for men to do things that are stupid and insanely so, and the price and the glory and everything that comes with doing things that you probably shouldn't do, which is a lot of entrepreneurship, let's face it, is doing things that are not advisable. A lot of people with sense would not do what you'll see in the film Open Water. Let's play the trailer. You're going to love this film. I guarantee you will love this film.
We are all human beings, and we have dreams.
This was something that a human hadn't yet attempted to do. First of all, we didn't know if a boat could take it. Secondly, there was considerable doubt if a human could take it.
They were proper seamen, experienced sailors. Then there was the mystery man, Don Crowhurst. This was a classic tale of English daring-do, homegrown British hero.
There's nothing essential that's missing.
The boat isn't ready. If he dropped out early on in the race, my father would be bankrupt. He had staked everything on being successful in the race.
We initially thought that this was a man who had made transatlantic voyages, but he was almost a weekend sailor.
The thing about single-handing is it puts a great deal of pressure on the man.
This was not just an adventure, but a very dangerous undertaking. He was playing the character of the long-distance sailor.
If Don went forward, he was committing suicide. If he came back, he was ruined.
He's not where he's supposed to be. He's not in the Southern Ocean. He's just off the coast of Brazil.
At that point, he could slip in beside them to rejoin the race.
Psychiatrists said that a human would go mad if they tried to do it.
There were many telegrams from him. We couldn't figure out what he was talking about.
I didn't stop him from going, and I didn't help him.
Don Crowhurst sailed over the horizon and into oblivion.
Yes. Deepwater, the story of Donald Crowhurst, is an amazing, amazing documentary film. Your job is to see it within the next 7 days, by next week's show, where we will have a critical discussion of it. And I want you to think about this question. What can we learn and take away from Donald and from the exercise of the world solo sailing race around the world? And how can you apply that to entrepreneurship? So that's your homework for the week. I'd like to. Do we have another news story that you wanted to do, or
I got some more stories if you want to. We can wrap it.
We're at 3 hours and 10. I mean, this is a 2 hour show. I mean, these guys got a lot of show out of us.
They did.
So let's just wrap up right now.
You want to have people rate the show?
Yes. Everybody, please rate the show. Rate the show. I'm going to pick from the people who rate the show, because I can't go through all these things here. I'll pick from the people who rate the show right now, 1 to 10. How good was the show and why? I'll pick a winner to go to TechCrunch.
To go to TechCrunch, yeah.
Yeah. And while we're getting those ratings ready, David Sachs, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Great show. Yeah. Everybody check out Genie. Everybody check out Yammer. Everybody go rent Thank You for Smoking. You see Thank You for Smoking?
I've seen Thank You for Smoking
Thoughts
as well.
on Thank You for Smoking? You like
well,
it?
It's really funny. Yeah, no, I enjoy it. And I was saying last night, actually, I was talking about it, and Maria Bello and David Koechner's characters are really great in that movie, where they're like
the Mod Squad.
The Merchants of Death. Yes,
yeah.
where they're like alcohol, tobacco, and firearms
exactly.
lobbyists. Yeah, that's my favorite sort of stuff.
Excellent.
From there.
They were still in the Netflix Top 100, like 3
Really?
years later. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Did Netflix do a special deal with you to distribute the film and buy, or just buy?
Not that I know
copies?
of. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that means the film just keeps making money after the fact.
On video, yeah.
Okay, so thank you for David Sachs for being on the show, and thank you to our sponsors at Ustream. Everybody should follow at Ustream, at WebSpy. Go follow at WebSpy, and at DNAmail.com. That's correct, Alex. They all have Twitter accounts. So if you were to go to twitter.com/DNAmail or twitter.com WebSpy or twitter.com/Ustream. You would actually find those guys. I think Twitter search is having a little bit of a bork right now. Oh wait, maybe there it is. It seems like Twitter search is getting slower. Did anybody else notice that? The time lag is just getting crazy.
It's up and down.
Yeah. But solid 10, 9.5 out of 10. Every entrepreneur should check it out. The Resumator is a great find. Love Yammer. We got a 9 out of 10 from Fojin Camp. That's great, very intelligent. Liano Software is riding us hard. He says we should talk about startups more, 6 out of 10. Definitely not getting himself a TechCrunch ticket. 9, best show yet. The show's become extremely polished. Keep it up, and we'll spread the word. Above average twist. Watched this one cover to cover, 2 hours, 8.0. We'll take it. A 9 out of 10. This might have been the best show of the 6 so far. There's only been 5 shows, but thanks, Rob Brown. 9 out of 10, insightful thoughts from David, insightful commentary on Scientology. 8.5 rating from Retvig, 9 from TRM. Alexander Andre gives it a 9. I think we're averaging about a 9 here.
Looks like a 9, yeah.
Looks like this show's a 9, which is the highest rated we've ever had. We're really trying to make the show better. We're trying to keep it moving faster. We got a 9.99999. I like that from Earl Wallace. And 9.1408189 divided by 10.2.
At least a 915.
It's a good way to get the ratings up is to promise people a prize.
I like that, actually.
It's a good strategy.
Yes. Well, I'm just going to pick somebody at random here.
Why doesn't someone just say 10 and then they'll win the prize?
Yeah, really.
No, there's 10.
Come on, guys.
I don't want to pick somebody just for doing a 10.
There's that entrepreneurial spirit.
I want to pick somebody who I think added a lot of value. This guy, Rob Brown, says it's the best of all the shows. Mr. Rob Brown. Rob Brown. Congratulations.
Oh, very good.
Very good. Mr. Rob Brown is coming to TechCrunch 50 on JCal. Well done, Rob Brown. AR_Rob Brown. Here's his tweet, 9.10. He said it might have been the best show of the 6 so far. It's actually been 5 shows, but that's great. Maybe he's counting another show I wasn't
They're
on.
so good it feels like 6.
It feels like 6 sometimes. It feels like 20% more show than we've actually done.
I'm such a big presence, it's like a whole extra episode.
Oh, yes. Everybody rate Lon as the newscaster.
Oh, yes, please.
Everybody rate Lon on a scale of 1 to 10. And everybody rate the guest, David Sachs, on how good he was as a guest.
Oh, great.
This is transparency, David. We have to see if you pulled your weight.
Well, you know, this happens during speeches now. Like, you know, obviously
It's
you're
happening
getting
anyway,
you're getting back
People are like,
channeled
this
as
guy
you're
sucks.
speaking.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, if you happen to have your laptop up there, you can actually like see what people are saying about you as you're talking.
Or if it's Dave Weiner, he'll just scream it out at you. I was at a conference where somebody screamed out like...
It wasn't somebody. It was Dave
It
Weiner.
was literally Dave Weiner.
Stop spamming us, I believe.
Stop spamming us was the quote. Everybody, I'm going to be in New York next week. I just want to fill everybody in on my schedule, since that's obviously very important to you all. On Monday, I'm going to be at the Conversational Marketing Summit, showing Mahalo answers and how to build community. Just my thoughts on that. Tyler and I are working on the presentation tomorrow. On Tuesday night, at the New York Tech Meetup, which is sold out, I am going to launch Mahalo 2.0. So you're going to get to see Mahalo 2.0 for the first time Tuesday night. It will then launch. It's pretty great.
Amazing.
Lon and I have been working on a whole bunch with the team here. And I'm going to give myself 6 minutes to demo it just like everybody else at the New York Tech Meetup. I want to go under the same pressure that you guys went under for TechCrunch 50. They offered me like, hey, we'll give you twice as long, 3 times as long. I said, why should I be any special? I shouldn't be any different than any other entrepreneur. I should get the same
special.
6 minutes.
Come on.
We're all special
You're
in
really
that
special.
kumbaya kind of way. But I'm not going to take extra time. And then on Wednesday, the third speaking gig of the trip, 1, 2, 3, Startups 2009, run by Henry Blodgett and the incredible team at Alley Insider, Business Insider. Great website. I watch it all the time. I'll be giving a fireside chat on Wednesday morning.
Yes.
Wednesday morning. So Monday, Conversational Marketing Summit. John Battel's great Federated Media event. Thank you, John, for the invite. Then we're going to do New York Tech Meetup on Tuesday. And then, 24 people scored the show. And then on Wednesday, we'll do that. I'm also going to have, are we going to have a dim sum perhaps? Maybe we'll have a dim sum.
Put something together.
We'll put together a dim sum for the super fans, for the people on the Jason Nation. We'll do that. David's rating. Uh-oh. I'm going to just try to move this really quick past the 7.5, but he got an 8.5. That's good. 9, 10. Good. You did good. Let's leave it as good. Lon.
Somebody rate me?
Lon.
Go up. Somebody rate me.
I'm not going to talk
At least
about
one
it. I don't
person.
want to make Lon feel bad. But I will tell everybody to
I did my best.
Thank you, DNA Mal. Thank you, DNA Mal. You know I love you for sponsoring the show. And the reason we're able to do a high-quality show like this with the high-quality cameras and everything is because of DNA Mail, because of WebSpy, and because of Ustream. Everybody thank them. I mean, just what does it take to say in your Twitter, at DNA Mail, at WebSpy, at Ustream, thank you for sponsoring TWiST. Who do we have on upcoming shows? Because I know the lineup is getting ridiculously good.
We got Sean Spector from GameFly.
Sean Spector from GameSpy.
Fly.
What is GameSpy? Gamefly. Gamefly. You know, it's like the Netflix of video games.
Yes, that's GameFly, right.
This is a colossally important company that's done incredibly well here in Southern California. So he's on a week from Friday. No show next week.
He's on the 19th.
The 19th.
Sky is probably, we're waiting to confirm.
Sky Dayton is coming on the show.
On the 12th.
On the 12th.
And then we've got Sean Gold on the 26th.
And so Sky Dayton, everybody knows from Boingo, from Business.com, Earthlink, and Helio. So he's going to have a lot to talk about because he's had a lot of big wins and he's had some misses. I think he's gotten hit by the ball like the rest of us. And then who was the other one? Matt Coffin?
No, Sean Gold on the 26th.
Oh, Sean Gold, who was in charge of, worked with me at Weblogs Inc., was in charge of, was the chief marketing officer of MySpace, and now is launching a new company and just raised capital. He's going to come on the show. He just raised his first capital round for his own company. He's going to tell us about his new company. He's going to tell us how he raised the capital. Thanks, David, for being on the show. Yep. Thanks, Lon. You did a great job on the news.
Thank you.
Thanks to Alex, Tyler, and everybody else on the team. We'll see you all in 2 weeks for This Week in Startups. And maybe tomorrow when we're doing our little demo, when we're building the demo, maybe we'll do a little live webcast. So
I'll be here.
Maybe we'll do a little live webcast and do a little preview. Something. Maybe we'll show some people some stuff. Anyway, Twitter.com/Jason Calacanis, thisweekinstartups.com. Thanks to the sponsors. Thanks to everybody for being on the show. And send in, where can people send their thoughts on the show, Alex?
Contact at thisweekinstartups.com.
So contact at thisweekinstartups.com if you have any thoughts or ideas for the show, a segment, whatever. Do your homework, Deepwater.
Deepwater.
Great film. You didn't see Deepwater?
No.
Well, it's your homework. You have to do it next week, and we'll have you call in. So everybody go see Deepwater, and we'll see you guys all next time on This Week in Startups.
Like we always do at this time, I go for mine. I get to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky.